That's on time.
Surprise. Yeah. It says this hangout on air is live.
Woohoo. Hello, everybody.
Like
Hello.
Okay, everybody. Sorry it has taken a little bit long. Well, this is normal. Never mind.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's taken.
We're just going to stop.
Sorry, it's taken a normal amount of time.
Yeah.
The bandwidth is. It says it's pretty good here at my Sonesta extended stay hotel in Flagstaff, Arizona. However, apparently, it's really not that great. Oh well.
It's good for the moment.
For the moment, I was going to say you sound perfect.
Okay.
Right. If you don't always sound perfect.
Oh yeah. Right. Let me close some of these apps. Maybe that's part of the problem. Don't need to have a spreadsheet up, that's for sure.
And Jeff, I'll take whichever ones you don't feel like doing. I'll be happy to read for you. Of course,
just jump in there, man. Just whatever one you think that you can make sound just awesome.
Like Boston sound? Mumbled and jumbled and with all the R's?
No, the opposite of that.
I'll try to pronounce everything perfectly today.
Yes. Dictation. No, diction.
Diction.
Not diction.
I
diction and enunciation.
I will speak slow and clearly as I would on the radio.
Very good.
You like that?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Of course, it might take me 1/2 hour to do just one little paragraph.
Fast and clear is better.
I don't know those two things in my language don't exist.
Try to make it so that I won't have to do too much post editing because I don't have the time to do post editing.
My medical assistant walked into the office the other day while I was doing some dictation of notes, and she was like, "Is it catching everything that you're saying?" She's like, "That is so fast." I was like, "Yeah, I don't have time to to do this slowly."
I love it.
It
I
catches
don't drink too much coffee.
Yeah, I don't drink any coffee. Ever.
Me coffee? No.
No coffee.
WAPG.
Oh shoot!
Airline pilot guy.
Did Roger send me in? Oh shoot! I dropped the ball again. I forgot to tell Roger when we were doing this. But
you could put it in post.
Yeah, that's what I'll do. Just let me check here, see if we got anything from him. It's not part of my workflow yet. I keep forgetting completely about it. He usually bugs me and goes, when are you doing the show and where?
Yeah,
you
maybe he's busy.
And I don't see anything from him. Okay, I'll just put it in post.
It's an amazing thing called the checklist. We don't
know anything about that. The checklists don't do me any good because I don't.
You have to read them
to do the checklist. So
you need a reminder for the.
It's a moot point.
Checklist.
Apparently, neither do I. By the way,
Neville, show prep, really? What's that?
Neville, we'll never get to the level that you all are at.
No.
You know,
show preps likes the wires under my desk.
Now Neville is going to have serious nightmares for a very long time.
Yes. Well, not as bad as Nico, though.
Oh, yeah. His was.
Whoa. That's an
how do you pronounced De Nachthexen?
Nachthexen. Hexen as in being hexed.
Nachthexen.
Nachthexen.
Ja, jawohl.
Yeah.
Inside drive
it's not die, even though it's spelled die, it's D.
That's right, because it's D-I-E, and the trailing vowel is the one that determines the sound that you make. So D is correct. Which would be
what are we talking about?
That would be
I'm trying to figure out where this is from.
That would be a female personal pronoun.
Well,
but not necessarily a female.
Is this in the chat room?
Well, they're witches, so yes, that would be correct.
I don't see anything in the chat.
I
see. It's the ponytails. Sorry, I just didn't read down though.
Oh, I didn't go that far.
Yes. Oh, okay. I know what.
I
know what the ponytails is about. Die Nachttexten.
Okay, studio. Where am I? 423.
You're halfway out there. A Flagstaff. You're a half past.
Yeah, not flag staff.
In Flagstaff. Today's show was recorded on
Today is the 3rd of April.
3rd of.
Oh, I got to change my calendar.
I can't believe it's already April.
I feel like I just changed my calendar. Where does the year go?
3rd of April. Okay. Never mind. Okay, and we are 369, correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go.
WAPG. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy, episode 369.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 423 in the Sonesta Inn in Flagstaff, Arizona. Today's show was recorded on the 3rd of April, 2019.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy. It's your ride and he's flying by. With the Airline Pilot Guy.
In today's episode, stick shakers and possessed women. What did they have to do with anything? I don't know. More news, your feedback, and this week's plain tale, Die Nachtachsen. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in their upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. Flight 369 is ready for pushback. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy show. It's an aviation podcast where we talk about aviation news and we answer your aviation-related feedback. And joining me today from her lakeside studio in South Carolina, she's a doctor, skydiver, marathon runner, strength training junkie, IPA connoisseur, and commercial multi-engine instrument-rated pilot. Her name, Dr. Steph.
Hey, Captain Jeff. It is great to see you again. Feels like we did this not so long ago, I don't think. But looking forward to a great show today.
I am looking forward to it as well. And yes, as time goes on, everything just keeps getting faster and faster. Also joining us from his studio in the English countryside, professional photographer, former RAF, RAAF fighter pilot, current captain for an international airline based in London. It's Captain Nick.
Hi there, Jeff. Oh, golly, you look a bit weary. I guess we're going to find out in a minute. As for me, I've been told by Dr. Steph that I shouldn't be drinking with all these special drugs I'm taking. So, cheers.
This is true. I did give him suitable medical advice.
And
Whatever people choose to do with that advice is up to them.
We are ignoring it. And last but not least, from his studio near the historic Concord Covered Bridge in Smyrna, Georgia. He's a barbecue master, motorcycle rider, pontoon boat skipper, underwater underwear photographer, and a captain for a major U.S. legacy carrier. His name, Captain Dana.
Well, hello, everybody. Let me just set the record straight. If you are saying the name an underwater underwear photographer, it would not be of the male species. So just saying that. Keen observation. Great to be back this week. Looking forward to a great show.
Well, we are too. I'm sure it won't be, but we're looking forward to it at some point in the future.
Eventually.
Yeah. All right. Let me fade that out and say hello to everyone watching us live. Remember, we do this show live. You should follow us on @APG Crew on Facebook and get the app for your phone, and it'll give you a push notification when we're going to record live. And you can join all the other wonderful people that we have right now with us in the live APG chat room. You'll have a blast, I'm sure. And I don't see what they're talking about right now. It's probably a good thing. So let's start off with our intro segment, and we'll try to knock out quickly what everybody has been up to since the last episode. And let's go with females first. And that, or is that an outdated?
Thank you. I think
Not your inner female.
No,
like
female
real
names.
biologically female.
Oh, female names doesn't
Well,
qualify.
that got
either.
weird, but I think you're assuming, or
is
you're
weird.
referring to me. I'm assuming as such.
Yeah, but I'm hoping that's not offensive, that I'm doing some kind of a chivalrous kind of thing, females first kind of thing.
That
I
is
hope
perfectly fine with me. I would not be offended if you deferred to the elderly first,
Oh, okay.
or to any one of the other crew members.
Maybe I'll do that next time.
Nick did not.
The elderly's been first. He's already done his bit.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Now it's us youngsters.
Yes. All right. So, before the show started today, Jeff goes, let's just keep the what you've been up to kind of brief. I'm thinking this is not the week for me to be brief about what I've been up to over the past.
Well, you can take as much time as you need.
No. I will be concise. But since we last spoke on the show here, I had a little weekend getaway to England. And I did that because I've been trying to fly with poor Captain Nick, who unfortunately could not fly at the moment. And I had some options. I could just have not taken the trip, and it really wouldn't have been any skin off my back. But I was also trying to coordinate meeting up with Carlos and Matt and the PTUK guys, because I'd been talking about doing that for a while. And this says crew log. I'll put it in a crew log too. So anyway, I was able to do that. I took a flight out on Friday night over to London from Washington, which was with Acme Red, my first time flying with them, which was very nice, I might add. I arrived Saturday morning, rented a car, drove over to Duxford, met up with Matt Smith and also Adam Spink, and a couple of Matt's friends as well. And we did a little tour of the museum in the morning, and it was gorgeous outside. It was one of the nicest days I've seen in a while. It was mid or low 60s, I'd say, Fahrenheit. Sunny. It felt great. And then we went over to PTUK's little corner of the world in Bungay, England, and we recorded a show there and went out to dinner. And then I turned around the next morning and drove back to the airport and came home just in time to meet up with Colonel Jeff and Armando on Monday night. And I think we have some audio of that.
We do. And this is the point at which I should play it. So let me just see if I can find it. I didn't know you were going to get to it right.
I'm sorry. I told you concise. I'll do some crew logs for the rest of the details.
Yeah,
so.
please do.
I will.
Okay. Hear about it. But we want a crew log, that's for sure. We haven't had one from you in a while. Okay, here we go. I found it.
Well, hello there, all you PTUK and APG listeners. This is a combined APG PTUK feedback. This is from the good-looking Captain Jeff, and I'm here at the Pilot Brewery in Charlotte, North Carolina. And this evening, I have two wonderful guests with me, the beautiful Dr. Steph and the wonderful Armando, who is back from England, and he doesn't have an English accent. So first, I'll put Dr. Steph on.
I think I'm also back from England just recently. If you recall correctly, I was there this past weekend. I traded places with Armando, and it was wonderful to be out there. It's very strange, I'll say, being on the interview end of the interview here, interviewee end, perhaps. But yeah, actually, Captain Jeff here, the good-looking Captain Jeff, suggested this as one of our meetup locations, and I'm ashamed to say that I did not know that this place existed, and I work down the road. They've been open since August. They do not have a sign out front. I drive by here every week. But now that I know about it, I will be back because the beer was delicious.
Yes, it was. Armando?
Well, hello, everybody. I am truly starstruck now that I see the real good-looking Captain Jeff in person. I see how he earned that moniker. No, we are here at the Pilot Brewery, and we've talked about life, love, liberty, and a little bit of airplane stuff too along the way. And it's just been a great evening.
Not so much happiness, apparently. But
oh, is that?
No, a lot of happiness.
Well, that's because we all just look happy over a couple pints of nice North Carolina craft brews and a bunch of snacks.
And it was interesting because actually, this was a no-notice trip for me to come down to Charlotte. I haven't had a layover here in a couple years, and I was actually wondering if Steph was going to be back from England or not, and she was able to be back in time for me to be down here the Monday after her trip, and we're having a good time. And Nick, I actually got approval this time, so it's not a problem.
If you could hear it, that's the sound of the stamp and or seal of approval from APG HR for this authorized meetup.
And I think Armando's going to give me his stamp as well for the PTUK folks, I hope.
Oh, as the new guy on PTUK, I have no authority whatsoever other than just sending in segments. So since I'm not going to be on the show this coming Friday, because I'll be doing my multi-engine recurrency, this will count as Armando's segment for PTUK.
So much for military. Oh, Captain Al will be happy. All right, for the APG and the PTUK folks, signing off.
So since I'm not the good-looking Captain Jeff, I've turned off my video, so you don't have to look at me.
Poor
Wow.
Jeff.
That's a relief.
No, that's okay.
Oh.
That's all right. I'm not taking offense at all.
That's okay. That gives us more time to look at Captain Nick, who's wearing what's that thing you have on your head, sir?
We're going to come to that.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Very good.
okay.
Very good. Well, hey, real quick before I am remiss in saying so, on my way out of the country of England on Sunday morning, Sir Neville Bounds, you've heard of him, and Graham Haley were kind enough to stop by the departure area of Terminal 3 so we could sit down and have a chat before my flight and a cup of coffee. And I think they were really just there to make sure that I was leaving the country. So my thanks to them for stopping by. You guys didn't have to do that, and it was great to see you.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like you had a good time with all those good-looking people. Okay, Nick, why don't you go ahead and tell us what is going on and tell us what's going on with that hat that you have on your head.
Oh, the hat. Yes. All right. I've got a hat. I received an unexpected piece of delivery from our lovely friend Nico from Germany. Nico Reger. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that.
I'm not sure either.
Nico, thank you very much indeed. He enclosed a handwritten letter, and he's got nice handwriting. So, I'm impressed. And he's written it in very nice English and all sorts of complimentary things and good wishes on one side. But he did say, maybe these things remind you that once you were also one of us, a Boeing pilot. Now, he's alluding to the fact that the F-18 is now officially built by Boeing because when I flew it, it was McDonnell Douglas, but they've, of course, been swallowed by the monster that is Boeing. So he provided me with a Boeing hat, a lovely Boeing pen, a Boeing 737-900 series without the modified MCAS. So I'm worried if I build this model, it's not going to last very long. And a Boeing, what's that? It's a memory stick. I'm worried about putting that in my computer because I think it's probably going to crash my computer.
Is your computer an Airbus computer?
Ouch.
Well, yeah. Well,
Oh,
I don't know. It's a
that might
Boeing
stop
stick,
that.
though, so I think it'll crash any computer. A big sticker, and of course, because we're both radio amateurs, a QSL card, very nice QSL card with a picture of his aircraft. You can't see it very much, but it's what radio amateurs swap when we have made contact with each other. And his call sign DL7XT is right there on the front. So very nice indeed. So a few of the things he said was, now that you're almost retired, you have no more obligation towards this other airplane manufacturer. You can happily join the Boeing Club. There's no membership fee. Why am I not surprised? Please feel free to show your appreciation for Boeing with your new cool blue hat on the APG show as often as you like while I'm wearing it. I'm leaving the tag on it because I gather that will mean it gets a bit more money when I sell it on eBay. But on a serious note, for your last flight, I wish you one last time: clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. And when all flying is done, enjoy your retirement as much as you possibly can, and enjoy the beer. Prost. And he sent me 4 lovely German beers with unusual labels. The one I'm currently drinking is Nachtflug, which I guess is night flying. I've got a Franz Joseph, a Ratsherren, and a Hopfenstopper. So amongst those, I'm sure they'll be lovely. Certainly the Nachtflug, which is stout, is going down very well indeed. So thank you very much indeed, Nico. And I appreciate it very much. However, going on to my health problems, my back has not, in fact, it's actually got worse from when I last spoke. So I think and I'm off to see specialists hopefully before too long. But the days are fast passing, and the date at which I'm supposed to do my last trip is fast approaching. And I'm sorry to say that it's quite likely that the two will overlap and not give me enough time to get fit in time for this. But fingers crossed, you never know. It might just happen, but there's a good chance it won't, sadly.
Ah, shoot.
Hmm.
Well, we're all hoping that you'll be able to do your last trip in Atlanta, because we're planning on having a great party for you there.
Indeed.
Well, that would be lovely. But there's always Oshkosh, so hopefully
That
I'll
is
be
true. That is
certainly
true.
be fit by Oshkosh.
I hope
If not,
so.
If not, I'll be on a stretcher. Okay, I'll be there, but on a stretcher.
Yeah. Do you know when the funeral is going to be? I need to put that on the calendar.
Oh my.
Yeah. Well,
That's
I already noticed you'd expired.
Yes. You seem to have expired last night, Jeff. In Flagstaff.
We all
We were a
saw that
little
you'd
concerned this
expired.
morning.
Yeah.
Well, I'll explain that in a minute.
But that's it from me, Jeff.
Okay. Dana, what's up with you, man?
Hey, great to be back. Missed you all last week. I was out flying from these skies 7 straight days in a row. And I'm going to leave that one kind of on the side because we want to keep it down to a minimum. So nothing too major happened. Had to fill out a little paperwork. And I'm just going to say that. One of the reasons, actually, I'll say it real quick, is after flying 7 days, I flew 18 legs in 7 days. That's a lot of flying. And, I did a self-evaluation of myself to see how I was feeling. I was rested quite well, slept quite well. So I didn't have a rest issue. But the very last leg going back into the Atlanta wasn't until I was turning on to final and didn't have proper use of my faculties. That's when I noticed that I was actually very fatigued. So fortunately, I made it all the way through until the very last few moments of the flight. Nothing major happened, fortunately, but I was just not reacting at the speed that I'm accustomed to. So fatigue did become an issue on the last leg.
How would somebody tell the difference between?
It was almost like I was drunk.
Oh,
without
okay.
drinking. I mean, fatigue is you just don't react quickly. If you and my mind was telling me to do things, my body just wasn't reacting. And and I just my I don't. The best way I can describe is, and even today, I mean, this is one day after, and I still feel numb. I'm just very, very worn out physically. Mentally, I'm pretty sharp. I'm not very tired per se. I don't need to sleep. I haven't needed to sleep. I don't feel like I need to sleep. It was just that my body is just not reacting. It's just like if I went out and ran a marathon, Dr. Steph, and you're mentally sharp, but your body just says, you're done. Use up all your energy.
And a lot of people don't recognize, I think, not so much physical fatigue, but mental fatigue. But it can make you react as though you're physically fatigued as well. So
yes, and so that's and I was fine. I did a self-assessment. My last round trip was up to Miss Liz Land up there in Toronto. It was an uneventful arrival in Toronto. As a matter of fact, we had a beautiful view of the downtown area where we turned the base leg. Even the controller commented and asked us how beautiful Toronto was looking today, and we both commented back to her, we both commented and when we said back, it is an absolutely stunning view today. Thank you very much. She said, I hope you enjoyed the tour. She actually vectored us into the area so that we could have a really nice view because they were landing to the southwest. So a really nice approach into Toronto. But anyways, that's a fatigue issue. That was my actual last day. And before I left from Toronto, I assessed myself and I said, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. And it really didn't rear its ugly head until just the last few moments of the flight. And that was when I was turning on to final into Atlanta. And I actually had to click the autopilot off because it wasn't doing what I wanted to do. And it didn't do what I wanted to do because I was not doing it the way it should have been done. And didn't realize it quick enough. And that's why I had to click the autopilot off and hand fly it in. So that was part of the fatigue issue. Anyways, enough of that. Couple things. Jeff, I think you mentioned last show that the award came out in the displacement. I did satisfactorily stay on the Mad Dog as a captain. That's a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is I'm still going to be a captain of the Mad Dog. The bad thing in Atlanta, I do not have to commute. That's very thankful for that. But I should have gone to the 717. I would have had much better seniority. I went from 82 percentile to the 98th percentile on the airplane out of 100. I am now 11 from the bottom when this thing all shakes out. So in the 717, I would have been about 82 to 83 percentile. So quality life wise, that's going to hurt, but there's going to be a few more bids between now and then, I think. And I think the next displacement that comes out, I certainly will be no longer on the Mad Dog. And I also tried to get vacation. We just mentioned Oshkosh. I tried to swap my May vacation over to July, and of course, that didn't happen. So I am hoping that I'll be in Oshkosh. I'm going to try to pull a few tricks out of my sleeves, up my sleeve to hopefully be there that week. And being that I was out flying for the last 7 days, had an opportunity to meet up with some people. Fantastic time up there in Portland, thanks to our very close friend Micah. And Mark came up. Mark came out and met us for lunch as well. Mark Adams. He's an engineer up there in a power plant in the Portland area, and had a very lovely lunch with both gentlemen. And then went ahead and spent the rest of the afternoon and got to taste Micah's fantastic home cooking. He made an unbelievable, and they even brought some home for Julie, unbelievable minestrone soup that was just knock your socks off good. Then he did in a pot roast. Keep on saying it wrong. It is that right? God, I can't remember. It's beef pot roast. Yeah. Pot roast, and then something that's a Jewish delicacy is kashivanishkas. So what that is a bulgur wheat, and then it's mixed with some pasta, and it's a fantastic dish. And then they had great desserts. We had a couple adult beverages, and then I told Micah, just go ahead and relax, have a good time, let's have some fun. You want to have a drink, have a couple beers, and whatever you want to do, and I'll take Uber back. We're not that far, so I did that so that he could have some fun and relax a little bit. And then the last thing is Sarasota. Had a quick meetup down there at Owens Fish Camp with Dean, our local friend in Sarasota, and my FO Chad, who's actually flown with Captain Jeff before. He remembers you, and had very fond memories. So it was a very good trip. Both my first officers were excellent and very helpful. And my first officer I'd actually flown with before. So that's a summation of what happened over the last week.
All right. Speaking of the meetup that you had with Micah, I believe there is some audio to go with that.
Yes, there is.
All right, let's go ahead and play it.
Thanks.
Your main man Micah here for a meetup at Ocean Gardens with Captain Dana, who last night came in on the midnight plane from Georgia, came in on the midnight plane. I always wanted to be a Pip, but not Pilot Pip. Captain Dana, it's so nice to finally meet you.
Wow, I cannot believe that I'm sitting here in Gorham, Maine, actually in the Portland metropolitan area, if you want to call it a metropolitan area. It's kind of small to call a metropolitan area. But anyways, I came in last night. We landed on runway 11. My FO that I'm flying with is from Auburn, Maine. So it's really exciting to see him so excited because this is his first layover here in Maine since he got hired at Acme. So had that pleasure of witnessing the excitement there. And I was personally excited as we were coming in because I knew that I'd be meeting up with none other than Uncle Maine Man Micah. And of course, my favorite way to say it, Mark Adams. So great lunch meetup here, and certainly great to meet both of these fine gentlemen. And after all this time, actually putting a face in person with the voice and the video projections that I've seen numerous times of Main Man Micah. So when I arrived last night, there was a big old white styrofoam package, and my crew members looking at me like, what in the world is God green earth is that? And I started opening up right there at the front desk, and I started peeling out all these items that were left there very nicely by Main Man Micah for me and my first officer to indulge upon once we arrived in Maine. So thank you very much. And oh, by the way, as a foodie, I have to say that minestrone soup was amazing that you made. So I really, really enjoyed that last night. So I'm going to pass off the mic over to Mark. I love saying that, Mark. It's wow, Mark. All right, so I'm going to hand the microphone over to Mark. You've heard enough from me. Here you go.
Well, thanks, Captain Dana. It's really great to be here with you guys today. And you said, gentlemen, you use that term loosely with me for sure. I'm no gentleman. Well, maybe not. So yeah, we really had a great time here today. We had some great food at the Ocean Gardens restaurant here in Gorham, not Gotham, Gorham. I think as Jeff, maybe misspoke about that. But yeah, we had a great meetup, had some great conversations, some great talk, and learned a lot of stuff about Acme. And yeah, it was a great day, great afternoon, and look forward to some more conversation with Dana this afternoon too. So I'll hand it over to Micah.
Well, you said that it's the first time you got a chance to see me, which isn't exactly true, and because we've seen each other on video before, and the first time you got a chance to talk to me in person, and that's true in person, but really the difference is now you're able to not just see me, you'll be able to smell me too, so now you know what's going on.
I can also touch you, Micah.
I'm so glad you like the soup, and tonight for dinner we'll have that at my home, and we'll have some more of that soup, we'll have some pot roast, we'll have some kasha varnishkas, but this isn't a food show, it's an aviation show. So let's not talk about food anymore. Dana, it's just so wonderful to finally meet you after all these years, and great to have you up here in Portland, Maine. Hopefully we can make it more often.
Well, Micah, your hospitality is amazing. I just can't thank you enough how awesome it is to actually be here in person. I did mention that it was via electronic media before. But anyways, your hospitality is amazing. You picked an amazing restaurant, and I look forward to spending the rest of the afternoon with you touring around the area, which I haven't done in a very long time. Unfortunately, Mark has to go by the wayside to a meeting, but we're certainly going to spend a few more minutes here talking before we head on our separate ways. And hey, listen, guys, it's been amazing.
From Gorham, Maine, here with Mark Adams and Captain Dana, signing off. Back to you, Jeff.
Well, thanks, Micah. Great editing job, by the way, on that.
Yeah,
and
fun editing job.
Yeah. And it was so nice to hear from all of you in Gotham, Maine. All right.
And one thing I failed to mention, Jeff, is Micah took me around town, despite he's having a little bit of back issue as well. But he took me around town to all the lighthouses.
Yeah, we saw that on social media. The beautiful photo of you guys, nice selfie of you guys in front of a beautiful lighthouse. Either that or some kind of a picture that you were in front of.
Yeah, that's that's actually the first lighthouse commissioned by George Washington himself. I think that's Portland Light or Portland. Mike is going to chime in here in a second. Portland the entrance into Portland Harbor. So that's where it is. It's one of the most photographed lighthouses in the entire world. But and I also didn't realize this, but a lot of the Freedom ships were actually built up there in Portland as well. So they have a tribute to that as well. So it was a great day, and made Portland Headlight. There you go, man. Micah, thank you, Portland Headlight. So, anyways, it was a great day, and as we both kind of figured, we'd hit it off and become instant friends, and we did, and it was a fantastic day.
So nice, so nice. Mike is a great guy, isn't he?
He is.
All right, somebody is calling me. Whoever you are from Mableton, Georgia, I do not want to talk to you.
Hello. I was just kidding.
Hello?
Hello. Hello.
Mabel, is that you?
Yes,
Mabel.
this is Mabel. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I
Come
couldn't
on.
come up with a voice fitting of a Mabel quick enough.
Hey, breaking news. The airlinepilotguy.com website is apparently down.
Yeah.
Again. I think maybe the guy that's been trying to hack it, or I should say guy or gal, succeeded, apparently. Oh, well. Sorry, everybody. I'll have to get with the website guru to figure out what's going on with that. Anyway, I'm not really that concerned at this point. So great audio. Sounds like you guys had a great meetup at the Ocean, whatever it was, Ocean something.
Sorry, I'm terrible with names. You know that. I can't remember the name of it right
Yeah,
now.
well, that restaurant that you guys
That
had
restaurant that was in Gotham. I mean Gorham.
in
Yeah.
Gotham. Mhm.
It was fantastic. It was a local mom and pop seafood restaurant. It was just out of this world good.
Excellent. Well, good to hear. All right. Let's see. We were going to mention that there is a aviation podcaster meetup in Duxford in the UK on May 12th. We want to make sure everybody is aware of that. And if you want information about that, contact Pilot Pip.
Awesome
And-
museum. If you haven't been, I apparently was living under a rock and had never been, and it's awesome. So
Did you go?
Yep.
Oh, that's right. You did on the
we went
last
this
trip.
past weekend. Can highly
yeah.
recommend.
Oh, I remember
So
the
if you're-
crew log you did about that. That's
yeah,
awesome.
it's
Thank you.
coming your way soon.
And also, we're hoping that there's going to be a meetup on the 13th of May in Atlanta, but we're not sure yet. So please just keep listening to the show and looking at the APG calendar to see what's going on. And we'll put any information regarding that there. And as far as I'm concerned, since the last episode, I have not flown. I don't think I have anyway. I am on vacation, technically. I'm pretending like I'm on video right now, but I turned the video off. So I'm doing my air quotes, but I'm thinking, why are you doing that, Jeff? There's no reason to do it because nobody can see your video. Anyway, I'm doing I've turned off the video, not because I was upset about the fact that everybody thinks I'm ugly, but because, well, maybe part of that, but also because the bandwidth here on my connection at the Sonesta extended stay suites here in Flagstaff is not that great. So I thought that this would be best for the audio. So that's why I turned off the video. And let's see. I am on you might ask, why are you, Jeff, in Flagstaff, Arizona? And I would answer, that is a good question. I'm not sure why I'm here either. I am making a trip to California to clear out a storage unit that I have that had some nostalgic items from my mom and dad's house that was sold about a year ago. And there were some things there that I couldn't take with me on the airplane, like my mother's china and some other nostalgic items. And so I decided to go ahead and get a storage unit across the street from the neighborhood. And every month I get this email that says that you have just made another successful payment for your storage unit. And I'm thinking, how long am I going to pay for the storage unit? I need to do something about this. And because I had this time off, I thought this would be a good time for me to drive out to California. And you may wonder, why didn't I fly and then just ship everything back? And that is a good question. I do like driving. I like long road trips. And I'm doing kind of a test road trip because Nick and I are going to do a road trip from Atlanta to Dayton, Ohio, to the U.S. Air Force Museum before Oshkosh, and then we're going to head from there to Chicago, pick up the RV, and then drive to Oshkosh. So I thought, yeah, this is going to be a good what do they call it? Shakedown cruise. So
what exactly are you shaking down, Jeff? Your ability to drive without falling asleep, or
I have not had that issue, although my car thinks that I have low attention level because
Does it warn you when you?
yeah, it is pissing me off. I don't know how to turn it off.
I'm sure there's a way to turn it off.
Lane
There's gotta
assist.
be. Yeah, so it'll
Look
be.
at the. You're not looking at the road. You're not.
I
looking at the
am.
road.
I'm looking at the road, and it's kind of been windy, so I think maybe because I'm kind of going like, making these small corrections because it's really blowing the car around because there's a lot of crosswind out here. It's thinking that maybe I'm like falling asleep or something, but it's really irritating me because it'll go low attention level, and then it starts vibrating the steering wheel and going, stop it!
It's like a stick shaker for your
It's a
car.
stick shaker. Exactly
you're
what it is.
stalling.
Hey, you make fun of
Speed up.
you make fun of me enough for not following social media. You can just YouTube on how to turn it off.
I haven't had a chance to do that because I'm driving a car and I don't want to take my attention away from
Let me
driving the
Google
car.
that for you.
Yeah,
Well,
let
hang
me
on a
Google
minute.
it for you real quick because it won't take but a
It's a Honda
second.
Accord
does-
2018. Please tell me how to turn the
I'm on it.
thing off.
I'm on it.
But
It
so- but the-
doesn't happen every time you do one of those little videos you've been sending.
Okay,
me,
well, so
has
maybe
it?
there are
Oh,
times
it's just
when I-
vibrating every time he goes off the road. That's what's happening. Every time he's going off the road into the dirt, it's vibrating.
Okay, so
It's
maybe
irritating.
it's really trying to keep me alive.
Turn off.
Yeah.
That's like the fourth thing on Google search. Turn off lane departure.
No,
Double
it's
Bound
not lane
says
departure.
Honda equipped with MCAS.
No, I
Perfect.
like the lane departure. That's great.
Okay. Lane departure is okay. You just want the eyeball sensor thing.
Is that what it is? I'm thinking. I was telling Liz. I was
It's looking
texting.
at
I
your
was
balls.
texting her. But listen, when I say texting, I'm doing the hands-free thing. So I'm being cool. I'm not taking my phone and looking down and punching thing in my phone. I'm
So
actually
you're just
using
punching your phone.
the
Was it your
built-in
car?
system in the car, the Siri interface, the Apple.
Does it take into account your squint, Jeff?
I don't know. Maybe the glasses have something to do with it. It thinks that I'm not looking at the road or something, and it's really pissing me off. It really is. But see, so I want to just turn off that part of it, but not all the others. The lane
Is it
assist.
the attention monitor?
Yeah.
Got it. I'll figure this out for you. Don't you worry.
Okay.
I'll stop talking about it now, but I just want everyone to know we'll take care of it.
Okay. But I want everybody to know that I'm being very, very safe. Now, I also want everybody to know that I thought I could get away with driving 80 miles per hour in a 70 miles per hour zone.
How did that go for you?
Not great, but not bad. Not as bad as it could have been. Entering eastern Oklahoma, I saw this Oklahoma State Trooper, and I'm thinking, oh, well, I'm not going fast enough for them to. Oh, no, they're following me now. Oh, nope, the lights are on.
Oh, geez.
Oh, crap. So I pulled off to the side, and he goes out and he goes, kind of going fast there, huh? I go, well, no, I didn't notice. I didn't realize how fast I was going.
Never.
Yeah, I wanted to say, I figured I could go that much more above the speed limit without you pulling me over, but I was wrong. But I did not say that. And he goes, so I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get a ticket because every time I've been pulled over by a police officer, state trooper, whatever, I've always received a ticket.
Really?
And in this case, he goes, yeah, every single time. And this is my very first time, yay, he said, well, I'm going to give you a warning. And I went, okay. I'm perfectly happy with the warning. So he goes back, does his stuff. He has my driver's license, brings it back, and gives me this yellow piece of paper that says I have a warning. I went, yoo-hoo, way, nice. Didn't get a ticket. So
Did you write 10 miles an hour above the speed limit?
no, I looked all over. It doesn't say exactly how fast I was going. I'm thinking. So I'd heard from somebody that said that you can go.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, sorry, go ahead.
No, Dana, I want to hear from you.
No, I think he was thinking that the mustache would have been a little suspect. So that's why he really pulled you over.
Oh, yeah. And then maybe when I was reaching for something and he pulled his gun on me and thought I was pulling a gun. No, I'm just kidding.
You were pulling the microphone to interview him.
Yeah.
He didn't
I wanted to say,
understand that.
how do you feel about this, officer? So I heard a saying, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but they said anything above the speed limit is good until it's like not over 9 miles per hour.
Correct.
So like I've heard the phrase over 9, you're mine.
Until
So-
you actually talk to a state trooper and they will tell you anything over the posted speed limit,
Well, of course they will.
they can give you a ticket.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I figured that was the case, but they must give you some kind of a margin for like, I was going to say airspeed error, but odometer or speedometer error or whatever.
Compressibility. That sort
Yeah,
of thing.
compressibility and
Yeah.
parallax error.
Parallax error. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's it.
Friction.
yeah.
Position error.
Well, anyway, the bottom line is I did not get a ticket, so and so I've been.
I just hope this
boy.
state trooper isn't listening to this show.
Yeah, I
'cause
hope
he's
not
gonna
too, because he's gonna be like, I
outside
changed
the
my
hotel.
mind. It's in the mail.
You still have a
like-
long way to drive, Jeff. You just
can't
jinxed
change-
yourself. Stop it.
You can't change your mind. Sorry. So what I've done, instead of going 10 miles over the speed limit, now I've backed it off to 5 miles per hour over the speed limit. So that's been working out okay. I haven't been pulled over yet.
I must admit, Jeff, that little bit of software you sent me that allowed me to follow your route along the road, and
Yeah.
which is great. First time I flicked it on, it said you were doing 128.
Well, I was not doing 128, I can assure you.
Well, you were kilometers an hour.
But it also said it was expired. So
And I went,
Yes.
whoa, Jeff's really clogging it. This is great. And then I went, oh, it's kilometers.
So I get all these emails. I looked at my phone this morning and everybody was concerned in the APG crew that I had expired
Yes,
because apparently the app that we're talking about is Glimpse. And you can send, and I think there are other apps that will do this. You can send the information. People can follow you. They can see where you are on the map, and they can apparently see how fast I'm going, and bitch at you if you are going faster than they think that you should. And so anyway, you can set it for a certain amount of time, and I think for you all, I set it for like 8 or 12 hours or something like that. And obviously, it expired. The glimpse expired while I was sleeping last night. But I did not expire. I'm still here. I'm alive. So thank you.
All we
I'm not
could
dead
see
yet.
was your position, and then it said Jeff expired. So,
Yes. What is that saying? The
I'm not dead yet.
I'm not dead.
No, that's not
Rumors
it.
of my demise have been
Yes,
greatly
I
exaggerated.
think Mark Twain. It's a Mark Twain quote about they thought he was dead or something. So anyway, oh shoot, I was going to connect my iPhone to the recording device so you could hear it of the meetup that I had
Of the
last
sirens.
night, but apparently I don't have the proper. Hang on, let me get the proper little Apple dongle for the Lightning port. So hang on. So you all just kind of entertain yourselves for a moment.
Excellent.
Why is Steph getting screen captures of me wearing a Boeing hat?
I'm not. Well, yes, I am. I asked people too, and I've actually received quite a few of them. So thank you to those of you who have sent them to me already. You know who you are.
Look, when I
This is-
retire, I'm going to become ambidextrous. Is that the right word?
No,
No.
No.
Ambivalent.
Ambivalent.
but you're already up.
Ambidextrous in the sense that you like both Boeing and Airbus.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
perfect.
But I think I did notice, and a lot of people in the chat room did mention this, Nick, that they noticed that the tag was still on the hat, as if you were going to return it.
Sell it on
Well,
eBay is what he said.
And
I
I'm
think.
going to. I said I'm going to sell it on eBay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
Except I'm joking because I've already ripped it off. Have you noticed? It's now missing because I said, right, actually, I quite like this hat.
Okay,
Well,
so
okay.
yes, Steph.
No,
go
no,
ahead.
this has nothing to do with anything. Go ahead. I was
Okay.
just going to keep talking.
Well, I'm sure it's more interesting than
It's not.
what I'm going to say. So I started on Monday, left the house at about 10 o'clock, and decided I didn't want to kill myself. So I made it to Little Rock, which was about a 10-hour drive, something like that. And that was my first night. Next day, I left earlier than I really wanted to. But I did that because I wanted to make it to Albuquerque because I knew that we have APGers in the Albuquerque area, and one in particular. I know there are more than just one, but I did a search in the emails and on Slack, and I even posted a message that I was going to be in Albuquerque yesterday, but nobody saw it. So if you're in Albuquerque and you are now listening to this, well, your loss. No, I'm just kidding. I met up with James Graves Brown, and I went to this is the oh, okay, I'm sorry. I was distracted.
Sorry.
That's okay. You know, squirrel.
Squirrel.
What is this that I'm seeing on my phone and every other device that I have that's connected to the internet? Okay. So I knew that James Graves Brown was in the. Is that another room that I'm hearing?
Squirrel.
Wasn't me.
Okay.
Definitely
I've just
wasn't Captain Nick.
I'm just definitely not Captain Nick opening a beer with his flip flop.
Okay, because I don't see any video, so I don't know what's going on. I just hear things. Anyway, I knew that James was in the Albuquerque area because he has sent in some feedback recently. He was the guy that talked about the flight that he had leaving Orlando, and they did a rejected takeoff. And he was wondering, why they rejected the takeoff and then ended up eventually canceling the flight. And I tried to find some audio for that, never could find it. And anyway, so I in the back of my mind, which is very small, I knew that there was somebody in the Albuquerque area. So I thought, hey, maybe there's a chance for me to get a little meetup while I'm on my road trip. So I contacted James, and he said, yeah, that's great. I'll just meet you. I'll pick you up from the hotel. And he took me to Guitar Center to get me a new XLR cable, because the one that I had with me in my bag has a little short in it. And so I got a new cable, and then we went to
a little short what?
A little short, I don't know. Can't think of anything clever to say.
That's
Yeah.
what she said.
I'm talking about the cable, not my own personal equipment. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
And we went to La Cumbre, which is a Steffi, what does that mean? La Cumbre.
How do you spell it?
Cumbre.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, we didn't
I could
know
find
either.
out.
So we asked the bartender, and they said it means the peak. And because Albuquerque has some mountains right there, very nearby, and they had an
Means the
award-winning
top.
top.
Peak.
Okay.
Okay.
The
Did
peak.
not know that word. But there you go.
I never heard of it either, but I don't know anything about Spanish except for like counting to 10 and some Mexican food items. So we went there, and there was a food truck outside. It was a typical, brewery kind of setup that they don't serve food, but there's a food truck outside, and it was a really good food. And we recorded a little bit of feedback on my phone. And so I hope that this will come through here. I'm going to hit the play button. I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico on day 2 of my, I don't know, probably 4-day road trip until I get out to California. And then I'm going to reverse the thing and hopefully get home by Sunday, because I have a trip on Monday. So, but I'm here. I let James Graves Brown know that I was going to be coming to Albuquerque. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking to myself, if I make it to Albuquerque, there's somebody there that said, Jeff, if you're ever in Albuquerque, I'll buy you an IPA. Now, to be truthful, I bought my own IPA, but he bought my nice green chili Philly cheesesteak sandwich, which was just awesome. So I'm here with James Graves Brown and James' friend Randy, and we're here at the La Cumbre Brewing Company, which means peak, and in Albuquerque, and we are drinking this wonderful beer. I had the Elevated IPA, which is an award-winning IPA, and it's really, really good. And so I'm going to let James say something to you. It's going to be probably the most profound thing you've ever heard anybody say on the show.
Hey there, Captains Nick, Dana, Dr. Steph, APG community. Just here enjoying a beer and some food and some good conversation with Captain Jeff and Randy. It's a pleasure to finally meet you in person, and I'm glad to have had this time with you.
Was I not lying when I said that it was the most profound thing? No, I'm just kidding. We're having a great time here, and it was a wonderful pleasure to meet you, James. He took me to a local guitar center because the XLR microphone cable that I brought with me is faulty, so saved my life, man. And here's Randy. You want to say something, Randy?
How's it going? I haven't actually heard the podcast yet, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. Jeff's a really good guy, and I'm definitely going to be a listener from here on out.
Randy, you said you haven't listened to the show. You're dead to me. No, I'm just kidding. No. So, hey, I think you'll love this. Well, I hope you'll love the show. We try to be entertaining, and the best part of this whole thing is the community that surrounds it. It's just amazing. And as I've said many, many times, the best part of doing the show is doing these meetups. And it was so nice to meet you, Randy, and to meet you, James. Thanks for sending in all the feedback, and I hope to hear more from you in the future.
Definitely.
All right. Bye. Back to you, Jeff, in the studio. Ooh, thanks for the throw, Jeff. I'm back here in the studio. And anyway, as I said, it was a lot of fun. Thank you, James, for picking me up and taking me to Guitar Center and La Cumbre. And yeah, as I said, we had a great time. All right, I'm trying to make this thing extend. That's what she said. To the iPad. Oh, what's that? Do you hear that? Somebody with a weed whacker outside.
No,
I'm on the third.
I don't hear it.
I'm on the second floor of this darn.
It's okay. You couldn't hear
hotel.
whatever excavation project
Why,
was
that-
happening just around the
that-
corner from my house earlier. So I
That
can't
must
hear
be
it at all.
long grass, Jeff.
And it must be
whacking
very,
it from
very
the
tall
second
grass.
floor.
I know. I don't understand this, but I hear it anyway. So yeah, we had a great time, and I'm going to be leaving tomorrow morning from Flagstaff. I'm in Flagstaff. You knew that. Heading to California, Southern California tomorrow to take care of all the clearing out the storage unit. And as I was leaving Atlanta, about not quite to Birmingham, I'm thinking to myself, oh, yeah, there's a key to the lock on the storage unit. I'm sure you have it with you, right, Jeff? And then I started looking around to see if I had the key to the storage unit lock, and I didn't. And so I proceeded to make a call to the storage unit people. Said, hey, so what if I forgot my key at home? I don't want to turn around because I probably would have never, if I'd gone back to Atlanta to my house, I would have said, okay, that's enough. I'm not going to do this again. And they said, no problem. We can cut use a bolt cutter to, get the lock off. So we're good. Anyway, I'm going to take care of that.
Then you have to bid for the contents like they do on Storage Wars.
Well,
Yes.
I don't understand. She said, yeah, we can cut the lock, but you'll have to buy a new one.
Well, I think they assume that you're going to keep the.
So that's what I'm
storage
thinking. She didn't hear the first part where I said I was going to clear everything out and, not pay for it anymore. But apparently she didn't get that part. But anyway, but even if I have to pay for a new lock, it's much better than having to turn back around and go back home.
For sure.
Anyway.
Oh, maybe they expect you to replace it. Was it your personal?
But no, it's my lock.
Oh, well then no.
Yeah, so I don't know what they're talking about. Anyway, I'm going to find out tomorrow, I think. Going to head over there tomorrow, take care of that, and then probably leave on Friday and come back and head back home with all the stuff that I cleared out from the storage unit. So there you go. Wasn't that fascinating?
Very much so.
thrilling. Had me on the edge of my seat.
I knew it. I knew it. Okay, that's enough of me. And I think now it's time for us to talk about the coffee fund. What do you think?
I do.
Please.
Okay. So rude.
Johnny, how much more coffee?
Please.
No thanks.
I love coffee. I love tea.
I love the APG
Community. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup. All right. The Jeff Smith sings the Java Jive. And we're talking about the Coffee Fund cadre, those great folks that support our show financially. And there are a couple of different ways to do it. And one is the Coffee Fund Classic Method. And since our last episode, we have a few folks that, or actually a couple of folks that use the Coffee Fund Classic Method. Alistair Kerr and Randolph Ackerman are contributors to that. And we have a new patron via patreon.com. That's the service that you can sign up and support the show and pledge a certain amount per episode. And Paul is an executive producer because he pledged $5 per episode. So yay, Paul. Listen to that applause in the background. Isn't that awesome? I know, you'll hear it in post. Okay. So if you want to support the show financially, please head over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. You'll be glad you did.
Stand by for news.
Hey, before we talk about the news, Steph, was there anything else that you wanted to add that you didn't talk about in your intro segment?
Was there? There might have been. I don't remember.
Oh, I thought you said something about Nev and Graham.
Oh, no, I added that. I said that. Have you
Oh,
been
you
paying
did?
attention?
Oh, okay. Maybe I was reading some old. Okay, I'll cut all this out.
That's fine.
If you're watching the video.
I took care of that. It's okay.
Shoot. Okay. So let's pretend I didn't say any
In
of
my
that.
haste to make a quick summary of things, I neglected to mention them. So I had to make sure I did not omit that because that's important.
Okay. So we're good there then.
We're good.
Okay. Okay. On the ongoing investigation of the 737 MAX 8 issue, we have a statement from the FAA on the 1st of April. This is not an April Fool's joke. It was a real thing. The FAA, well, I think it is. The FAA expects to receive Boeing's final package of its software enhancement over. Wait a minute. Is this really a April Fool's thing?
I don't know that the FAA makes April Fool's Day jokes.
So I'm thinking final package and enhancement? Okay.
Perhaps just the person who actually has to write the...
Somebody wasn't thinking here and obviously doesn't follow our show.
That's what she said.
Okay. Let's start with this, an update on the 737 MAX thing. The FAA issued a statement on the 1st of April. The FAA expects to receive Boeing's final package of its software enhancement over the coming weeks for FAA approval. Time is needed for additional work by Boeing as the result of an ongoing review of the 737 MAX flight control system to ensure that Boeing has identified and appropriately addressed all pertinent issues. Upon receipt, the FAA will subject Boeing's completed submission to a rigorous safety review. The FAA will not approve the software for installation until the agency is satisfied with the submission. So that is the official FAA statement as of 2 days ago. And we're expecting that software enhancement anytime now. And by the way, just an aside, the doing the road trip that I'm doing has allowed me to listen to a bunch of podcasts that I subscribe to, but I have not listened to because I just don't normally have time to. But when you're driving a car for 10 to 12 hours a day, you have plenty of time to listen to podcasts. And one of them that talked about this particular issue and also referenced an article that I also read that I thought was very well done from somebody from the Seattle Times. Brandon, in his podcasting on a plane, read basically this article from this columnist at the Seattle Times, and it's a very balanced and very well done article. So I'll put a link to Brandon. If you haven't listened to Brandon's podcast, you really do need to, because I mean, it's just better and better. Every time I listen to it, I'm thinking, wow, he is really kicking it. In fact, pretty soon, I think I'm just going to quit podcasting because people like Brandon and the boys over there at the Posing Bases and all the other great podcasts that are already out there are just so much better than what we do here. So,
well, I've already sent them my CV.
I know well, I have noticed, by the way, that several of my co-hosts are making appearances on these other aviation podcasts. So that is something that I'm thinking is maybe is telling.
Yeah, just the odd overture.
Just cameo appearances, really.
Yeah,
But
so
hey, we should point you in the
testing the
direction
water.
of Plain Talking UK, because I was on their most recent episode. I don't know which number it was. I don't remember, but you'll
Nah,
find it.
don't waste your time on that one. No, it's
but they have very nice cabling.
Yes.
Do they?
yes.
Do they have like
Yes.
everything's channeled all nice and neatly?
Everything's very nice and neat. Yeah.
Yes, Steph, you did not mention that, did you? That you were on the. Well, I thought you
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
Okay.
She did.
Yeah. So you don't want to miss that. I mean, like you can't. I mean, you really can't get enough of Steph. And so you need to watch the PTUK where she was the special guest. She had the two hosts of the show just mesmerized. They were just
That was a
awestruck.
bit of a surprise to me, but yes.
Not to us.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah,
fair
we're
enough.
always awestruck when you're with us,
You
Steph.
guys are too kind.
Anyway, so since this is one of the last episodes of the Airline Pilot Guy show, I just thought I'd mention those great podcasts so you'll have something to listen to.
Yeah.
What?
No, I just chuckled at what else was going to
drinking my
say.
beer.
Okay. We can't tell what you're
Embarrassing
doing, Jeff,
silence.
because
Actually, I'm crying. I had to put myself on mute. I had to collect myself and okay, I'm okay now.
Get a grip, Jeff. Get a grip.
Yeah, well, I can't do that either.
Hmm.
Although I'm not on video, so I could. All right.
Now.
Wow.
Item number 2 in the news folder. Oh, no. I wanted to mention another podcast I was catching up with. Opposing Bases. Really, really good discussion about the Atlanta TRACON and how they handle traffic coming into Atlanta and how they assign runways and the different breakdown of all the different positions and how they bring airplanes in and manage them and do mixed approaches, and then they go to the PRMs, and it's just fascinating, and I'm learning something. I'm somebody who has participated as a pilot in this stuff for many years now, and it's just kind of amazing to hear a report. What do you call those people? A controller from the Atlanta TRACON in
There,
Peachtree
the
City.
voices in your head.
Yes.
I love it. I love it when they turn the boat around. That's very good. That description was excellent.
Yeah, it's just really good behind the scenes information that I think really enhances safety, especially for us who are, the participants in the whole play. And if you're not aware of it, Atlanta Atlanta International Airport is the busiest airport in the world, and these people, when they have everything going at full approach rate, the arrival rate is 134 per hour, and so think about that. That's a lot of airplanes coming into an airport every hour. And then I think when they're doing the PRMs, it gets reduced to like 98. But it's 98, an arrival rate of 98 is still amazing in low weather, low visibility conditions. So anyway, very, very interesting stuff.
Series of
RH
2, I think, right? They did.
Yes,
across two podcasts? Yeah.
I think I'm like halfway. Well, I just started the second part of that.
I've listened to the
series.
first part so far, but
Really good stuff. I mean, it's just, for us pilots to hear all the stuff that's going on really is pretty interesting. At least I think so. So check out Opposing Bases podcast. RH and AG are doing a great job. And again, Brandon and Gonzalez and his Podcasting on a Plane. Just really super, super podcasts out there. And then, of course, all the other aviation related podcasts, Airplane Geeks and Flying in Life and PTUK, Plane Safety, and so many more. I'm sure I'm forgetting some, but good stuff out there. All right. Item B, Harbor Air. Who wants to talk about this? I guess I do. Top seaplane airline, Harbor Air, looking at switching to battery-powered aircraft. I think they're looking at either C or D cells. I'm not sure. A lot of those things are going to be required to operate these airplanes. I'm just kidding. That's a joke.
Yeah,
I was frantically scrolling through the I was like, I don't recall reading that part of it.
Seaplane operator Harbor Air, which regularly shuttles BC's, British Columbia's, political class to and from Victoria, is looking to become the first all-electric fleet of commercial planes in Canada. But the company head says passengers have nothing to fear, nothing to see here. Greg McDougall, founder of the company that bills itself as North America's largest seaplane airline, said Monday that I'll be the first guy to fly one. I'll be the test pilot of it. That's cool. I guess he is a pilot. He was referring to an electric-powered prototype the company will test within months as a prelude to electrifying the fleet within about 2 years. By November, the company is planning to be testing a de Havilland Canada DHC-2 Beaver, a 6-passenger aircraft equipped with an all-electric motor developed by Magnex, a company based in Redmond, Washington. Magnex has been crafting the technology on the ground, but has yet to operate it on an aircraft. Here's a quote from McDougall. I wouldn't put myself in there if I thought there was a problem. I certainly wouldn't put my loved ones in there if I thought that there was a problem, or my passengers. We have to prove a standard of safety that's equal to or better than what we currently have. And so the article goes on to talk about the technology and other information regarding this. What do you think? Do you think this is actually going to happen? I guess these are not long range flights in general.
No,
so
they're about 30 minutes, he says, normal flight, which is quite within the capacity of these aircraft. I mean, the only thing that worries me slightly is that if I was going to choose to have a fleet of electrically powered aircraft, that I wouldn't necessarily start with seaplanes.
The ones that land on water? Yeah.
Yes, like water and electricity. You think, well, that's not the kind of perfect environment to start. Everything splashing around, everything getting wet. So, but he seems confident. So there you go. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they can make it work, that's sounds like they're going green.
I mean, it could be nice and quiet because it's they're working right in the middle of a city there. It could be really good.
Yeah. I still think my technology, the rubber band technology, would be something that would,
Do you think you could get a 30-minute flight out of the rubber band?
Yeah, we're only at about 3 minutes at this point, Steph. We're still working on extending it to a longer flight period, but apparently that's something that they want.
The customers have paid for it. a longer experience.
Those darn customers. They're always right.
Mm.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see. It might be just the first step in, 20 years from now, people are going to go, what? Really? They had engines on airplanes that were not electrically powered? That's weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. So check out the article from the Globe and Mail to read more about this. All right. Item C.
I'll take that one, Jeff.
Okay, please do.
All right. So this is UPS to make drone deliveries at WakeMed Hospital in Raleigh. So just up the road from me, they'll be making, this is the company United Postal Service. Yes. I should probably know, because I think I have family relatives who work for them, which I'm not affiliated with them at all. But they'll be making their first deliveries with drones in the United States, in the Raleigh area. Let's see here. So they're going to use Matternet drones to deliver lab and blood samples between WakeMed's hospitals, clinics, and doctors' offices in the Raleigh and Wake County area. This is a historic development in patient care. And this article is from newsobserver.com. Says a white drone with 4 rotors appeared over the roof of WakeMed's main hospital on Tuesday morning and landed outside the front doors carrying a small brown box with a UPS logo on the side. The flight marked the first regular commercial delivery by drone in the United States that was approved by the Federal Aviation Administration. UPS will use drones to deliver blood and other lab samples from WakeMed hospitals, clinics, and doctors' offices to its main lab in Raleigh. Known for its boxy brown trucks, UPS will be using drones made by a California company, Matternet, whose battery-powered 2 quadcopters can carry loads of up to 4.4 pounds. Not a ton. For now, the deliveries will be limited to short hops between WakeMed's main hospital on Newbern Avenue and a medical office park across from Sunnybrook Road. In a demonstration flight last August, a Matternet drone carried several vials of water 1,377 feet from a parking lot in the office park to the roof of WakeMed. Let's see. Tuesday's flight was longer, about a third of a mile, and took about 3 minutes. They expect to make about 7 of those flights a day, delivering samples to the central pathology lab in the hospital. Eventually, they hope to master the logistics and win government approval to make drone flights as long as 12.5 miles, the full range of the drone. The NC Department of Transportation, North Carolina Department of Transportation, has been working with Matternet and WakeMed on developing the medical delivery system under a test program authorized by the FAA to determine how drones or unmanned aircraft systems might be regulated in the future. FAA rules still bar drone flights beyond the site of the operator, though the agency has issued waivers as part of the test program. UPS and Matternet say they expect to be able to receive an FAA waiver that would allow them to make daily deliveries from WakeMed facilities around Wake County to the central lab on Newbern Avenue. And it goes on quite a bit longer here, but I think that's kind of the gist of what's going on. So it says by the end of, they're hoping that by the end of 2020, they'll be flying for several hospitals around the country, and that in time, drone medical deliveries will be considered routine.
All right. Hey, I was in Guitar Center, and we were at the front paying for my XLR cable, and I heard this guy go on the loudspeaker or the PA system, "Oh, we have a code brown. And I'm thinking, are they saying something about me?
That sounds dodgy.
I know.
Yeah.
It's like, that's rude. And then they said, no, it's a UPS delivery. I went, oh, okay.
What can Brown do for you?
That's right.
I believe that was a slogan.
I was a bit
one.
disappointed that the drones weren't boxy and brown.
I know. I was kind of hoping they would have.
Yeah, they're too white.
Yeah, wait.
It does have a. If you see the, if you look at the link in the show notes, which I'm sure it'll be there, the little parcel box
count on it.
does kind of resemble a UPS box.
Yeah.
Logo.
And the one thing I didn't really quite understand is there are no cameras on board. So either for the pilot or to record what's on the ground, they rely entirely on GPS, which I was going, I wouldn't do that myself. I'd quite like to see where this, important amount of blood or organ or tissue or whatever where it's going, and if they have a slight problem where it's landed. But
Nothing
apparently
can
not.
possibly go wrong with that.
No. Foolproof.
Nothing can go wrong. Go wrong.
Nothing.
Go wrong.
Okay. Hey, thanks, Steph. Anything else to add?
I don't think so.
Okay. Let's skip to E. Incident. Red Wings A321 near Ekaterinburg. Is that the way you pronounce that?
That's how I would pronounce it. Ekaterinburg.
Ekaterinburg. March 26, 2019. Red Wings Airbus A321-200 registration Victor Papa Bravo Victor Oscar, performing flight WZ4071 from Ekaterinburg, Russia to Antalya, Turkey, was climbing out of the E-City when a burning odor occurred in the passenger cabin. Flight attendants found a seat cover smoldering on fire and discharged fire extinguishers successfully. Let me try that again. And discharged fire extinguishers, successfully putting the fire out. The crew decided to continue the flight to Antalya, or Antalya. How do you pronounce that?
Some 1,700 miles away, and Antalya, I guess.
Ooh.
So it's quite a long way.
It is. So on March 28th, the airline reported they found a lighter, a cigarette lighter or whatever, between the seats. It appears a passenger used a lighter to set the seat cover alight. The airline is going to propose a ban of carrying lighters onto aircraft to...
Rosovietsia.
Ah, shoot. That didn't work.
Rosovietsia.
Yeah, Rosovietsia. Russia's Civil Aviation Authority. Wow, so that almost sounds to me like a terrorist incident.
Well, somebody messing about, you know.
Why would you set your darn
Myth
seat
maker.
on fire?
God knows.
Because
God
pyromaniacs.
Well, I
Really
guess they're
bored.
that.
But I mean, if they're going to ban carrying them on in carry-on, aren't people just going to put them in their checked luggage? The whole point is to avoid having them in your checked luggage, because you can put them out when they're in the cabin. You can't do much when they're in the cargo hold.
So I sense, Nick, that you're thinking that because you made the point, they continued for quite a long journey after the fact that they got the fire extinguished. You're thinking that maybe that wasn't a good idea to do, or what?
Well, I don't know. It depends on really how quickly they get rid of the odor of the fire extinguishers and how serious the fire was. Because I mean, we've had in our outfit a fire in a hat rack, and I think they discharged 4 or 5 extinguishers, and they're pretty they're irritants. The halon is really quite nasty and choking, but they got the fire out and they discovered the source, and they said, right, well, it's all safe now. The irritant cleared. They decided to continue. So no, I think if you've got everything under control, that's fine. But if you've got someone on board who has deliberately set light to the seat, I'd be tempted to put the damn thing on the ground and find out who the hell it was.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess at this point they didn't know who the passenger was, and the fact that it was a lighter. I'm not sure. We don't have all the information.
No, we don't. But I'm
see.
assuming that they had passengers' tickets and seat numbers, unless it's one of those, you know, go and grab any seat. But I think they'd probably have enough witnesses to know have a vague idea. But
okay, I see that now. Yeah. So it's not the fact that there was a passenger seat on fire and they isolated it to that particular seat, and they were convinced that this was not going to be a problem for the rest of the flight. That's not really the issue. It's the fact that there's some idiot here that is trying to light things on fire.
Exactly. Yeah, that would be my concern. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I agree. All right. Well, thank you. Nick, I think you said you wanted to take on this next news item, F.
Yeah, well, this is a fascinating one because this is a Qantas 744, and it's near Hong Kong, so they're coming up from the south, and they're in a holding pattern, and they get a stick shaker activation. And the title is actually quite amusing because it says stick shaker activation in holding pattern injures 15 passengers. So it makes it sound like the stick shaker went mad in the cabin and hit all these passengers, but that's not exactly the way it works.
What?
So it was a
that's the way it was.
I know that's
Really.
totally how I read it at first. I was like, "Oh, runaway stick shaker going down the aisle of the cabin."
smacking everyone around their heads.
Somebody get their stick shaker.
Very good, very good. Okay, so it was a Qantas Boeing 747-400, and he, for those who are interested, Victor Hotel Oscar Juliet uniform, and it was flight QR29 Melbourne to Hong Kong. 347 passengers, 17 crew. They're well looked after, aren't they? And they were asked to enter the hold on a waypoint going into Hong Kong, and it's quite common on southerly arrivals from my memory going into Hong Kong that you might do a few turns, and they were told to enter the hold at flight level 220, and the position was about 60 miles southeast of Hong Kong. And the stick shaker activated, prompting the crew to disconnect the autopilot, recover the aircraft manually. Now, the problem with having, explain first of all, the stick shaker is a stall warning. It's an indication that the aircraft is about to stall, and we really don't want that to happen. And the other thing is, it's when you're in a hold, you've got a lot of aircraft in the same piece of sky, usually, you've got a number of you, and you're only separated by 1,000 feet. There's not a lot of room to complete a stall recovery. So these are the two main features. Australia's TSB reported 15 passengers had minor injuries, and the occurrence was rated as serious and being investigated. And the data off the ADS-B transponder suggested the aircraft was descending to enter the hold at about 340 knots over the ground. Well, that's a pretty irrelevant. So let's have a look at the final report, because this is much more accurate. And they say that the guy came into the hold, and he had first selected expecting to be a hold at the normal height, which is, lower, about flight level 150. So he set the hold in waypoint Betty, which was correct, and then set his flight management computer to hold at a speed of 223 knots, which is what they would normally expect for a sort of lowish level flight level 150 hold. Now, when they were cleared to enter at flight level 220, they didn't change that speed. Now, stalling speed increases with altitude because the air gets thinner, less air molecules, and the aircraft stalls easier. And what's more, the speed they sent at the height they were was well below the aircraft's maneuvering speed. So when the autopilot rolled the aircraft to do the first turn of the hold, it had 30 degrees of bank on. That's when the aircraft stick shaker activated, telling the crew that they were approaching the stall. They were at dangerously low speed. Now, what happened was, as the onset of buffeting, the flight data show that the autopilot was disconnected, most likely by the captain. He then pushed forward on the control column, which is exactly the correct thing to do, although having done so, you should then really roll the wings level. But he reduced the aircraft's pitch and reduced the aircraft's bank angle, so they're both good. But due to a desire to remain within the protected airspace of the holding pattern, he didn't roll the wings level as is recommended. Now, for me, if you're about to stall, that's quite a serious situation. The protected area of the hold isn't really as important, particularly when you're up at flight level 220. You're not going to bump into much. So, you declare a pan or a mayday, and you just do what you need to, and everyone stays away from you. The captain also did not disconnect the auto throttle as is required by the stall procedure, but he manually advanced the thrust levers due to concerns regarding an excessive increase in pitch resulting from a large power increase. he didn't give the engines full power. So this is possibly a valid concern when you've got pods under the wings. If you put a lot of power on, it can tend to pitch the aircraft up. But if you're have already unloaded the aircraft and unstalled the wings, you're usually pretty safe at that point to go full power. First officer observed the captain's actions and was satisfied, but 6 seconds later, still with the speed selected to this low speed of 223, the captain pulled back to level the aircraft and prevent further descent. But the same thing happened again. The stick shaker activated. So in response, the captain had to push forward a second time because he still, I don't think, had realized that his speed was so low for what he was asking the aircraft to do at that height, that it really was so close to the stall that he should have increased the aircraft speed. Now, just as a matter of interest, the maximum holding speed up to 14,000 feet is 230 knots. So that's the kind of speed regime he was in. Up to 20,000 feet, it's 240 knots, but up to 34,000 feet, above 20,000 feet, you can go all the way up to 265 knots when you're in the holding pattern. So he could easily have just increased speed by some 40 knots, which would have put him in a much safer environment. And I think this is the main problem. He had it in his mind that this was the speed he needed to be at to hold, and really didn't pay any attention to the fact that he was well above his normal holding altitude, and therefore the speed was inappropriate. So there was a sequence of stick shakers. Captain responded by pushing forward. And during all this maneuvering and the bunting, etc., obviously people in the cabin were being thrown around a bit, even though the seatbelt sign was on. I don't suppose it'd been on for very long. And of course, at that point of the descent, there's usually people who ignore it because they want to make that last visit to the toilet, etc. Eventually, they got the aircraft sorted out and descended, and everything was fine. But during all these pilot-induced maneuvers, the CSM, the senior cabin manager, who was standing in the aisle, she hit the cabin ceiling and then fell onto an armrest. 5 other crew members also struck the ceiling. So the aircraft wasn't being maneuvered around gently, but then when you're recovering it from a stall, that's actually going to be secondary. It's much more important to make sure the aircraft is safe. The passenger located in a lavatory struck the cabin ceiling and then landed back on the seat. I'm only hoping they weren't in too much of a mess. But all in all, it was a bit of a disaster, really, from the crew's point of view, because this really was a self-induced problem. What do you reckon, Jeff?
I am so exasperated when I read this because, when you're in a big transport aircraft, I mean, even, the aircraft that Dana and I fly, it's a big airplane. We have a lot of passengers, and you should be aware of its performance limitations and always being very careful about not getting too slow. And then if you have the thing hooked up to the lateral navigation system and you have a holding pattern set up, understanding, looking at the winds and going, what? It's probably going to try to bank up a little bit more than I'm going to be comfortable with at this altitude, at this very low speed. I just, to me, it's just all the hairs on the back of my neck would be, upright, and I would be very concerned about not getting too slow. I would add more speed to whatever the calculated speed was in the system, and I would probably even maybe take out some of that bank, just so that you don't get into a situation like this where you end up stalling. And this is a 747-400. It's a big airplane, and when you're up at altitude like this and at such slow airspeed, this just should be something that's basic. Like, you understand that this is going to be a dangerous situation that we're getting ourselves into. Let's give ourselves a little bit of safety margin. So I don't know. I'm really kind of incredulous regarding this. It's like, how could you get yourself into this situation? And then when you did get a stick shaker, perform a stall recovery maneuver, roll wings level. I don't care where I am and what other airplanes are around me and where, it's just like, you got to keep your airplane from dropping out of the sky.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So a lack of knowledge because he didn't know the correct maximum holding speed for the level he was going to be at. Perhaps he didn't even, I don't know, realize that the speeds change with altitude to give you that
I hope
extra
so.
margin.
I can't imagine that he would not know that as a professional airline pilot. Yeah, I don't know about you, but when I see that the speeds that are calculated by my vertical nav and LNAV, my RNAV system, I look at that and go, yeah, okay, maybe, but if I have to bank a little bit more than what I'm anticipating, that's going to be pretty close to that margin above stall, and I don't like that. I'm going to add some extra speed, so I'm going to override the speed and keep it, at a safer airspeed. And I think that most of us out there would do the same. And this person didn't seem to quite grasp how he was putting that airplane into a very, very perilous situation.
Well, he was relying on the flight management computer to do his speed calculations because the report says had the crew recalculated the whole speed for flight level 220 using the flight management computer, it would have provided a target hold speed of 240 knots, which was obviously much safer and further from the stall. In this case, the flight crew likely did not have an adequate understanding of how the flight management computer calculated the target hold speed. They also did not understand the use of best speed provided on the hold page in the FMC. Using best speed would have provided the crew with a hold speed for the actual aircraft weight, altitude, and configuration. So it sounds like they didn't really have a firm grasp of what the aircraft systems are there to do and provide you with all that information, and they were just doing something that perhaps they'd done before, not being perhaps used to holding and not really thinking very much about the fact that they were way higher than they normally might be.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't the system? I mean, I don't know the Boeing system at all. Obviously, we on the Mad Dog use, we have our numbers that we know that are in the box. Jeff, and I know about. However, we also have a paper card in the flight deck which gives you the altitudes and also the speeds associated with it. That way, that it's almost like a book for dummies and speeds that you should abide by at certain altitudes. Is it? I forget what it says in there, Jeff, but it's 6,000 and 6,000 to 14 and 14, something like that. And then there's a section, of course, says Buffett limited because it's too high of an altitude we can't hold. Period. So we have that to refer to. But just like you were talking about, Jeff, the kind of the hairs on the back of my neck stand up when I start looking at these speeds. I generally don't like to even be below 250 in maneuvering, unless I'm configured. Start putting out the slats and flaps. As the slats usually that speed's pretty close to just below 250, usually 230s to 240 range. When we have to put the slats out, it's just to maneuver the aircraft. So. Having a rough number in your head as to the number that you need to have to be able to maneuver the aircraft at different altitudes is just something that we do as professional pilots. Seeing these speeds, it's no wonder the airplane decided to stall. Scares the bejeebus out of me.
Yep. Yeah. You there, Jeff? Still?
Have we lost you, Jeff?
He can hear for some reason, not talking. I can see his video there.
Yeah, we can see his video.
Yeah. So do you want us to move on to the next?
Be happy to.
He hasn't said nothing. Give us a thumbs up, Jeff.
Hello.
Hello,
Can you
Jeff.
see us? Uh-oh. This could be not good.
No, he can't
He
see
looks
us.
very
He can't.
grumpy.
He's become an amphibian. Amphibian. Oh,
We can.
they're referring to Nick. Okay.
He's referring to Nick.
Don't worry, it's the
Oh,
chat
he
room.
just muted his mic. No, he unmuted his mic.
Well, he's currently got it
Hello?
muted. Now.
Oh,
Yeah, there you
are.
are. Hi.
There you are.
I have no idea what happened there.
Well, you had the little mute symbol up, but apart from that.
I wasn't hearing anything from you all.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yeah.
very strange. Well, we
Sorry, I
finished
thought-
the discussion and it all went
We
very
did.
well. So
Oh, good.
I think we
Yeah,
can call
it
that
was-
one over.
It
I
was
heard.
lovely.
I saw you going talking. So I'm thinking, well, that's good.
We're just chewing gum.
Well, I look forward to hearing it in your
It was
individual
wonderfully
recordings.
stated.
This is going to be a mess. As far as editing it. Oh well.
For some reason, your camera is really zoomed in now too.
Well, it's because it's using the FaceTime camera now.
I see.
Let me try to go back to the Logitech camera. Hey, there it is. Now it's way out,
Yes.
and you can't hear all that weed whacker activity behind me.
Little
Like
tiny
vague-
bit.
A little bit.
Try to listen really closely.
Yes, thank you.
No,
That's
so I
the
can't
thing
hear it.
now. That's just a great mic you've got.
Now
there,
you're
Jeff.
muted. Jeff, you're muted. Oh, okay.
Oh, there it is. We can hear it.
I can hear it
Oh,
now. Yeah.
I never muted anything. I didn't touch a mute button. I don't know what's going on.
Well, now your audio is not coming through your microphone.
Gremlins.
What happened? So okay, this is gone. Okay, well, it's not seeing the USB. Lovely.
This is if you're watching live, this is your bathroom / beverage break.
Yep, we're going to take a few minutes.
Yeah, do you hear all that?
I can hear all that
Oh,
now.
yeah.
It's
Oh,
coming
yeah,
through your,
absolutely.
now that it's coming through your
Yeah, it's
computer
coming through my
microphone,
computer.
it's very loud.
Microphone.
Through the microphone, it really was difficult to hear. Oh, jeez.
No, wow.
Enough. Save
It
it.
sounds like somebody's trying to cut into your room.
He's going to take his new
I think he's
cable
going
and-
to tell them off.
Thank you.
Wow. Wow. That's crazy.
Normally,
Yeah,
I'd suggest that Jeff counts to 10, but I think we need at least 20 or perhaps
20.
even
I might give it
30.
100. I might give it 100.
Son of a.
Gun.
Okay, so why is my iMic system not working? Come on. Here we go.
Hello.
Yes, there you
we
are.
go.
That's much better.
All right, so I got to go back to there. Hello. You say something to me now.
Hello, can you
Oh,
hear us?
hello.
Thank
Checking
you.
through. Thank you.
Thank you. I love this audio technology.
Mhm.
Yes, it's good stuff. All right. So I guess it was my fault because I actually tried to turn my camera back on because I had it off all this time.
Well, I'll teach you.
Yeah, I should have just left it. Okay.
It's like, oh, you
Well, it's
wanted to
fine now.
reset everything.
Yeah.
That's what you were
apparently
asking for.
That's what it was thinking I wanted. No, I did not want that. Okay. So have we, you guys said that you basically tied it up in a bow, the
Mhm.
Well,
Qantas 740.
kind of, yeah. I think we've finished. We've just run out of things to say.
Well, that's good. Me too. Okay. Let's move on to the last item in our news folder, which is woman looks possessed during in-flight meltdown over a Pepsi. Are you ready to hear this lady? It kind of sounds like she's using Latin, like in those movies, like The Exorcist.
Yeah.
It's kind of quiet on my end, but I think there might have been some choice words in there.
Yeah, well, they beeped out the really choice words.
I thought that was the woman making that strange beeping.
No, she go
noise.
beep.
Oh,
Beep.
So yeah, this
a
lady,
nose flute or something.
she was a Spanish woman. She began screaming and taking shots from a flask. And in the video, you can see her taking out the flask from her pocketbook and just basically drinking it straight. Apparently, she was upset because she wanted to have a mixer, and her mixer of choice was Pepsi. And apparently, on this flight, they were only offering, what did they say? Orange juice and
Fruit
coffee.
juices. Yeah.
Hey, a fruit juice works just fine as a mixer too, don't you think?
Yeah.
That would
and
be my
what's the
choice.
way you can have a nice
Fine.
Irish coffee.
Yeah. But apparently she wanted Pepsi, and she was kind of upset that Pepsi wasn't an option. And so I guess the police came on and took her off the airplane. But anyway, I thought it was kind of amusing, entertaining to hear her just going off. And to see that video, please refer to our show notes, and then you can see it yourself.
I like the bit where the captain left the cockpit to speak with her and handed her a note banning her from the airline. Have you got any of those
Good
notes?
authority.
I'd like a few of those notes because there's a few people I would like to get rid of.
I need a stack. What are you talking about?
So was this when they were still on the ground? I guess they must have been in flight when this all happened.
Yeah, because she was arrested when they
Yeah.
landed.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I can't imagine taking her with them. If she was displaying this kind of behavior on the ground. So yeah, she just basically lost it, and she got her priorities out of whack. Apparently,
She forgot to take her Ritalin.
Maybe so. I don't know.
or something. I'm not sure.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Or too much from the flask, perhaps.
It was a TAP Air Portugal flight in Lisbon for a flight to Malaga.
Malaga.
Thank you. That's another pronunciation of that city. Probably the proper one. Thank you, Steph. What did you say again? Malaga. There we go. All right. With that, I just feel like just turning everything off and just going to bed. But if we must, we should probably continue with feedback. What do you think?
It's good. Sounds good to me. As long as we're gonna make it, Jeff. As long as we're gonna make it.
I don't know. I think it's time for me to have more beer. That's probably not a good idea. Maybe I'll just stay off.
Beer.
Captain, incoming message.
All right, let's start with this first item from Thomas. It's an audio feedback. And he said, I wanted to drop you all a quick line regarding a question I had after listening to your latest episode. I'm not sure it was the latest episode, but thanks as always for the great show and for managing to have come up with new questions, or have me come up with new questions and challenging my assumptions on operations and standard operating procedures. So here we go. This is from Thomas Merriman, and he sent us the audio. Oh, nope. I can't play that because you can't hear that. You can hear it through my microphone, but you can't hear it the proper way. So let me go over here. Obviously, I need to just get another book about how to do podcasting.
We'll send it to you for your birthday.
Hey, APG crew, this is Thomas. Wanted to get with y'all for a quick piece of feedback regarding the latest episode, at least currently latest episode, which would be 366, and specifically regarding a piece of news that you covered over the Air Transat 737-800 that had an aft cargo fire indication and had an emergency divert to Newark for a landing. And just kind of brought a couple of questions to my mind, really questions that should have come up in my last feedback, which I don't know if you happen to recall, but was some time ago, regarding the decision by a captain, how you make the decision to go about evacuating your aircraft and what that looks like as far as carrying out that process. And these questions are a little bit more specific, but my background being in public safety, this is kind of where my mind goes initially when I hear stories like this. And a lot of the times I realize that things do coalesce between aviation and standard fire suppression. However, this is one case where I'm not positive. In fact, I'm pretty sure that it's not the case. And I wanted to get a more definite answer from you if possible. And what this stems from is the discussion that you all had regarding the fact that, as Captain Nick pointed out, rather than, or at least in companionship to, checking the aircraft with FLIR, or forward-looking infrared, or a TIC, a thermal imaging camera is what we call them, they also made the decision, the firefighters on the ground made the decision to go ahead and pop the access to the rear cargo door with people still on the aircraft, which, as you pointed out quite rightly, can add a sudden oxygen supply to what could be a still smoldering fire, depending on the fuel source and how effective the halon deployment was. And you could absolutely have a essentially a very fast reignition, kind of flashover type event. And at that point, you would have a much more evacuation worthy event, but could totally have been avoided. So what this brings up in my mind is how much control you as a captain of an aircraft have over the airport firefighters. And obviously this is going to differ, I believe, based on where you are in the world. And it could even differ based on the firefighting agency that you have, whether they are a local fire department that staffs a station at the airport. They could be an airport specific fire department. They could be part of the Port Authority, especially I believe is the case in Newark, and as you'll find at New York as well. The New York, New Jersey Port Authority runs their firefighting there. Now, the interesting thing here is that if you were to have a fire in a residential commercial dwelling, just a standard structure fire, when the fire department arrives, they essentially take ownership of your house, of your domicile, or whatever location is on fire, until they deem it safe and turn it back over to you. And what that means is they basically can force you off of your property, to remove you, to remove occupants, even, in case, unfortunately, it's had to be the case in the past, by force, to do so, in order to carry out their job. And they take the highest level of ownership over the property as long as there is a fire emergency. And I don't believe that that would be the case with an aircraft. I believe that you as a captain, I assume, would really still have the final say in everything. As far as evacuation, obviously you would. And I kind of wanted to understand how exactly, or how much control you have, or how you would go about trying to make sure that you maintained that kind of hierarchy of command with the air rescue firefighting guys. Because obviously you both want the same positive outcome, but there may be some miscommunication or some misunderstanding over approaching the aircraft, their priority in checking the area where fire was indicated versus your priority in making sure that everyone gets off the aircraft. And like Nick pointed out, could obviously be a controlled evacuation, doesn't necessarily need to be, blown slides and things like that, and evacuating the aircraft in what is going to be an almost inevitable injury scenario. So when it comes down to an aircraft, whether it's a fire indication or something else, but typically a fire indication, do you get to make that call about, obviously you do have to shut down the engines and give them permission to approach, if I'm not mistaken. But when they go to actually access the aircraft, once you've shut down the engines and presumably have told them that it's safe to approach the aircraft, do you expect them to inform you before they start opening hatches, before you expect them to start accessing parts of the aircraft, actually entering the aircraft, things like that? Because obviously they are your eyes and you have to rely on what they're saying to you. And unfortunately, a lot of the times, because what we do is so rare. You're not going to come in contact with halon. They wouldn't necessarily recognize it as just the halon deployment. And who knows if that had actually been accurately communicated, as communication getting passed from PIC all the way down to Fire Command is a kind of hit or miss thing, as we've seen in some incidents in the past. Not all the information tracks all the way downhill. So when it comes down to it, bottom line, do you get to have that much say in who actually enters your aircraft, how they enter the aircraft, or is it basically once you shut down your engines and tell Fire Command that it's safe to approach, is it pretty much, carte blanche as far as what they're going to do, from entering the aircraft to maybe if they're going to cool the brakes or whatever the case might be, depending on the emergency? Do you need to request that? Do they need to seek further permission from you? Or is it basically they own the situation, very similar to how it is in civilian firefighting? So whatever the case is, I would appreciate some feedback, some insight, and just see how it compares to the side of public safety that I'm familiar with. So as always, I appreciate the show, and thanks for listening to the feedback.
Well, I have some an answer for you. I don't know. No, Nick, I'm sure you have some thoughts.
Actually, I don't know either. Okay. It's a very interesting question, isn't it? Because I would assume in most circumstances, I have when the aircraft is under my control, and I have absolute authority on board. But that authority has a definite start and finish point. And from us, it's more or less when the doors close or we start moving the aircraft to when we finish. Now, there is obviously a point when you've parked up and you open the doors and you're no longer really in control. And the same might apply if you stopped on the runway, shut the engines down with a possible fire, and you're no longer moving down an airplane. Is your authority now still absolute? I don't really think the legal definition matters too much. I think a good captain and a good fire chief will communicate and talk to each other and come up with the best solution to what the problem is. In other words, if the fire chief wants to have a look inside the cargo hold and I said, whoa, no, hang on, whoops, if you're going to do that, I want to get all the passengers off first, I would expect my knowledge there to be overriding, and he wouldn't try and do something like that. But on the other hand, if he's got a really good suggestion saying you've got a break fire, but I can keep it under control, there's no point risking your passengers and getting them out of the aircraft, this is all going to be fine, then I would probably bow to his knowledge on that point and let him deal with the situation outside as long as he kept me involved. So I think it's a matter of cooperation. It's a matter of CRM, really. And you do make a decision between you, but ultimately I feel it's still passengers, still my responsibility, not his.
That's the assumption I've always made. I'm still in command of the situation, and you're relying upon their perspective outside and what they're seeing and their advice regarding what they think that you should do as the commander of the situation. That's my assumption. But Dana, what do you think?
That's it, Nick. I mean, you hit it right on the head. It's communication. I mean, you've got to establish communication with them out there because they really are your eyes and ears, and they are the experts on fire. And they that's what they train. They train consistently using. And I've had the opportunity, actually, believe it or not, to witness the training over there in Atlanta way back in my younger days. We actually were trained or saw what their training was like. So they are very well trained on how to handle aircraft incidents and what to look for and how to handle certain circumstances. So that's what they get paid their money for. We get paid to make those types of decisions. And the biggest thing is one of the things that we have to worry about is, is the aircraft really on fire? Is it really an immediate type of a threat to the safety of the aircraft? So should we really consider, rapidly think about evacuating the aircraft if we have a serious situation. And that comes from various sources. Flight attendant could call up and say, well, the floor is very hot and it's very smoky back here. Nobody can see. At that point, the decision will be made based on what's happening in the cabin versus what they're seeing outside the aircraft. So there are a lot of things that we as captains have to consider, but certainly the Atlanta Fire, was it ARF, Atlanta Fire Rescue, they are the eyes and ears and the people that help us to make that decision, and we're ultimately responsible for the passenger safety. That's the way I view it until they're off the aircraft.
What I would say is that I think one of the greatest threats in this whole thing is communication and trying to figure out how to communicate with the people that you need to communicate with. And I don't know about you, but every time we have a situation on the ground and there's like a fire situation or potential fire situation, a situation with situation with like fire in the cargo hold and that kind of thing. Did you notice that many times the pilots are going, well, we'd like to talk to the fire chief. What frequency is the fire chief on? I think that there needs to be better standardization throughout the whole world as far as what we can expect as pilots, where we're going to be, what frequency is the ARFF going to be, what frequency are they going to be on? So that we can talk to them. Have you noticed it always seems to be an issue in these situations? Like, okay, where are they? What frequency are they on? I need to talk to them and communicate. And there always seems to be some confusion regarding that.
Yeah, in the UK, at my two major airfields, it's always the same, and it's one click above 1215, so it's 1216, and that's fairly common, I believe, in the UK. I don't know if it's the same in the States, but that's the frequency that our guys use. So it would be nice if someone went, let's allocate this frequency. So you're right, Jeff, wherever you are in the world, you know where to go to speak to them. Trouble is, a lot of the countries that I go to, they wouldn't speak English, perhaps.
Yeah.
Whereas controllers have to speak English. Fire crews probably wouldn't.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean,
you just had me thinking. I was trying to go back. We had the flight I was on returning from the UK on Sunday. Small hydraulic or potential hydraulic issue, they thought, on final approach. So we got met on the runway by ARFF so they could do some inspections, and it turned out to be nothing. But I did try to go back to find the ATC audio of it, but when you listen to it, they're talking to them sometimes on tower frequency, but clearly sometimes not.
I like that.
Ouch.
Nothing to hear here.
Thank you. My eardrums are
going well. We're having a great time.
I'm sorry, did anybody say anything? Because I can't anything now.
It was nothing that I did here with the speaker.
Nothing to do with that at all, right?
No, like I was trying to turn the speaker on earlier and nothing was happening. And so I'm going to try it again.
Your timing was
impeccable.
Okay, go back to where you were saying something before.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just saying.
I love it.
I was just me being curious. I wanted to go back and listen to the whole exchange on as much of it as I could find on live ATC. And it's funny where you hear bits and bobs of what the fire service is saying or what they're being directed to do, but not all the time. So there's other information going on different channels or different frequencies. So, and not just the live ATC doesn't pick up on all of the communications. There were clearly times where there were other things going on. So
yeah, live ATC is only going to pick up on
the stop.
That was not me.
Yeah. But just my point being that they weren't on the tower frequency.
Well, live ATC is only going to pick up on the tower frequency, whereas the the local frequency that they're using to communicate isn't necessarily going to be.
Right. I understand that.
Well, no, it really depends on the airport.
It depends. Yeah, it depends on what they would be using. To...
Sometimes has all of the frequencies that are at that airport. Some airports they only have tower and ground control, sometimes combined. Right. It really depends. It's a I've heard many instances where they've had all those other discrete frequencies covered as well on live ATC. So,
and some of the airfields you go to, Jeff, would they even necessarily have their own dedicated airfield fire service, or would they use a local fire service that would come onto the airfield if you had a problem?
no, they're all the airports that we operate into have dedicated airport rescue fire services for that airport.
Okay.
Even the smaller ones.
Just curious. Yeah,
that's like one of those requirements for our 121 carriers.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you.
Do I need to protect my ears anymore here?
So, yeah, I'm just not sure why the thing is not putting out the audio from you and everything else. No, it's putting out my audio, which I don't need to know. I don't need to hear that. It's anyway. I'll figure it out later in post. Okay. Sorry about that.
That's right.
That was not something I was expecting to happen. All right. I would love for one of you to take the next
William, I'll take it.
Okay.
Let me open it up. Solving the nightmare of crew scheduling. Oh boy, did I pick the wrong one? I'm only kidding. Last summer, a technical problem with a crew scheduling and tracking system for one of the American Airlines Group's subsidiary, Dayton, Ohio, headquartered PSA Airlines, led to more than 2,000 canceled flights. The issue began on June 24th. No, let me start that again in post, Jeff. The issue began on June 14th with a computer bug that caused PSA to cancel all of its flights to and from Charlotte, North Carolina. Once the airline stabilized its systems on June 19th, an American Airlines spokesperson said, team members have been working nonstop to reposition crews. While there are numerous elements required to rebuild the lines of flying in the wake of an event like the PSA Airlines glitch, among the most important is filling planes with crews. It's almost always a manual, time-consuming grind. Typically, airline crew scheduling departments bear the brunt of the effort by putting out phone calls to pilots, even if the airline makes use of an app like Crew Life to help disseminate scheduling information. To fill, say, 30 flights, assuming a 4-person crew, there's a minimum of 120 calls to make. With a major U.S. airline flying an international route, finding a crew for each plane could take 6 or more calls. For example, a captain, a first officer, and 4 more flight attendants. Compounding the challenge is the fact that a scheduler would have to make these calls and then wait for crew members to call back, delaying the process further. As the outbound calls pile up, the phone lines inevitably become tied up, which creates problems for crew members trying to return messages and accept schedules. According to a December 2008 Department of Transportation report, just over 10% of all delayed U.S. flights resulted from air carrier delays or late arriving aircraft. Embedded in the statistics for air carrier delays are crew problems. Several years ago, the U.S. General Accounting Office examined statistics from 11 airlines and found that approximately 3% of flights were delayed due to challenges scheduling crews. According to the GAO, airline stakeholders say that the category of late arriving aircraft delay effective masks of the underlying cause, which can be crew schedules. The GAO reported that to reduce delays and cancellations attributable to crew scheduling issues, airlines have taken steps such as adding time to flight schedules and using reserve crews and positioning crews in anticipation of expected weather. Nowhere in these government reports do the authors mention airline automation.
Well, we don't read the whole thing because it's going to take a long
half
time.
an hour.
It's a very long article.
I had read it in my email, but I didn't realize it was this long. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. So just kind of give us the gist of the article and what they're talking about here and what the issues are regarding the trying to cover irregular operations and
So let's go back and post. This is, let me just start over again here and just say that solving the nightmare of crew scheduling. And to summarize the nightmare of crew scheduling, it takes a lot of manual labor, manual input, because there's really not very good programs out there that can kind of think on its feet like human beings can in order to fill the holes that are out there. So it takes a lot of individual effort in each airline for the individual departments, the crew scheduling department, to cover flights. Let's say there's a mechanical issue and or weather event, or a delayed crew coming into a hub. All those factors need to be addressed by crew schedulers. And one of the biggest things is that the delays are kind of hidden in the government data, because there's really no specific way to look at that and what those delays or how they're affecting the airline. So let's say somebody like Acme versus another airline here, domestically, let's say American or well, Southwest or anybody else. They all have their own ways of handling it, but the bottom line is it takes a lot of manual labor. It takes a lot of phone calls, because there's really, we're in the infancy with our scheduling system to be processing crew changes electronically, and notification electronically. So it really, at this point, still takes a lot of manual labor to reach out, touch somebody, and have that person call back. So that's the general gist of how scheduling works and how manually involved it is. It's even in this day and age when there are all these computers and so forth, it's still quite labor intensive.
Although, as the article points out, that there are some tools out there that are showing up that help, automated tools, one of which is Arcos, which it talks about in the article. And it's an automated system that helps crew schedulers assign trips in irregular operations. And Acme is one of those airlines that has been using it now for, I'm not sure how long, at least 6 months. And it seems to help out in these situations, because they're talking about in the article where you have a trip that you need to cover, they call, and it takes a while for somebody to answer the phone, or maybe you leave a message and then you give them 10 minutes to call you back. And then finally you find out that the person is not available to cover the flight, and then they have to move on to the next person. And you can see that it's going to take forever using that kind of a system to cover flights that need to be covered in these irregular operations. And this Arcos system is able to go out and try to contact many pilot crew members or flight attendants at once. And it's a much better system now that they can use to try to cover some of these irregular operations.
Well, and that's what I was mentioning. It's in its infancy, so we just started using that very recently.
Right.
And if you compare us to other people, certainly, or other airlines that I know of, they are not using that, as some of them are not using it. I have a very close friend of mine that I've known for a lot of years that works up there in crew scheduling at Acme, and even to this day, it's a lot of writing down, manually dialing. In Arcos is coming along. Right now, they're just using that for the green slip, I believe. Are they not? Just for
yeah,
green
that's
slips?
true. Yeah, I think they're kind of testing it on the overtime kind of flying situation, just to kind of see how it's going to work out. And then I think their plan is to roll it out for like white slip coverage or regular pickup coverage in irregular operations.
Yeah, and still, I mean, even though Arcos can go out and reach numerous people at the same time, it still is dependent upon those people reaching back in to acknowledge that notification. And so it's still not a perfect system, in my opinion, but a whole lot better than sitting there and dialing, 5, 6, 12 people on a crew. international crew, obviously much larger, smaller crew like us, 5 or 6. Still, that's a lot of phone calls you have to make, and it's time consuming trying to reach out
So
to people.
I don't know what Arcos is. I'm assuming it's a kind of messaging system.
It's a system that it's kind of hard to describe, that we all have. We have apps on our EFBs and our cell phones if we want to have it on our cell phone that basically gathers data for people that are available to cover trips and are willing to cover trips. And so what happens when we're in a situation where they're starting to award overtime flying, what we call Acme green slips. And if I have a request a green slip request, when a trip matches those preferences that I put in there, I'll get a notification that Arcos, this app, will give me a notification that there is an award process going on, and then it gives you 10 minutes. It gives you an opportunity to look at the trip or trips that are available, and then you can rank order them in the order that you would prefer. And then, of course, based on your seniority, you will be awarded the trip that you requested first or second or third or whatever. So it's just a way for it's to take a load off the schedulers where they had to do all of this manually, and now they can use an automated system to take care of this. And I think it's really helping a lot with their, being able to cover some of these things in a much more expeditious manner.
Well, that certainly makes sense because the technology is there. I mean, we can message each other in an instant around the world. And the fact that the airlines are just starting to find ways of using this, I find quite amazing, because my airline is like yours used to be. It's all done by the phone. They got to call you up.
Yep.
Well, I think it's most businesses in general kind of lag behind on technology because there's a lot that goes into implementing new software, new computer hardware, things like that to make all of these systems work across a large network. If it's a large company, especially.
Well, one of the things that you have to be very, very aware of is that if, in fact, all of a sudden these messages are going out all the time, well, now the company, technically by the FARs, are interrupting a potential crew member on rest. And there's, was it 1 interruption or 2 interruptions, I think is the maximum before, you've now interrupted their rest officially. So, those are some of the things that they're trying to work out. And initial growing pains with the Arcos system, it was sending out all the it was 10 or 20 people sending out notification to in looking for 1 trip to be covered. So now at 3:00 in the morning, 20 pilots are getting woken up for 1 trip to be covered. So that was the initial growing pains on that. And I think they've kind of have resolved that issue. And so, right now you have to put in for Arcos to call you. Arcos never calls me. You want to know Arcos never calls me? Because I never put in for anything.
Right.
So it's specifically green slip because I know I'm never going to get it anyways at my seniority. But so it's coming. It's going to be there, but there's still a lot of manual work, a lot of paper, and a lot of just manual key. If you look at the behind the scenes, and if you actually saw and knew what the computer system looked like, you remember those old Acme term sets? You know what I'm talking about? Where you type in all the cryptic codes, JDQ, SA, FN. All that stuff.
Right.
That's what they're still working with in crew scheduling. They're still working with that type of cryptic. You have to memorize all the codes. So until that technology comes forward, it's going to make it really hard to really get Arcos up and running at a good clip. I think.
Yeah, the thing that they also have to be careful about is that if the Arcos system does not award the trip to the right person, then the person that was supposed to get the trip is going to grieve it, and then it's going to cost the company a lot of money. Not only are they paying somebody to fly the trip, they're paying them double pay, but then this other person over here, or maybe 2 or 3 other people who were supposed to get that trip that didn't get the trip, they're going to have to pay them as well. So it gets very, very expensive. So they have to kind of make sure that the system is working properly before they implement this in a wide way.
Yeah, so it's basically crew scheduling is still a work in progress, still a very highly manual process that requires participation on the other end, and that's us, as crew members out there to respond. But it's still a timely process. So
Yeah.
that's really why it takes so long, or it's such a monumental effort on such a big scale. When you have a major interruption, i.e., a huge storm will come through, or
Or the
computer
electrical
meltdown, or electrical.
uh,
It's
trunk line gets cut to the an
exactly,
airport or something like that. Yeah,
yeah, something like
yeah,
that.
it's a
So
big mess.
it
I
is a
don't know how they
huge
do
mess.
it. 9/11 was just an amazing, huge mess because they had all these, airplanes and crews all over the place, all over the world, and they didn't know where everybody was. And it took them days to figure out where everybody was and how to get everybody home and get the whole operation restarted. I think that was the very beginning of somebody saying, hey, you know what? We really need to take a look at doing something here to make this work better and keeping track of everybody better. And we had several instances since that point where they didn't get it quite right, but they're getting much better at it now.
Yep, it's definitely has taken a turn, and certainly technology going forward is going to continue to enhance and help to solve this issue.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about you, but I think this would be a good time to get to the best part of the APG, which, of course, we all know that means plain tales time. So here we go.
The old pilots plain tales. Die Nachthexen. It was the spring of 1943 at the height of World War II. Two pilots of the Soviet Air Force were flying their fighters over a Soviet railway junction. Their patrol was routine until the pilots realized that they were over the target for a large formation of German bombers, 42 of them. Diving down into the formation, they attacked. Dodging and weaving around, they managed to bring two Nazi aircraft down before the wing of one fighter was blown off by defensive fire from the Germans. Bailing out, the pilot drifted down into a field whilst the Yak-1 spiraled into the ground. Workers in the field who had watched the skirmish ran over to help the pilot, offering a drink of vodka, and they were surprised when the offer was refused. No brave fighting man would ever refuse a glass of vodka, surely. The pilot would later recall, nobody could understand why the brave lad who had taken on a Nazi squadron wouldn't drink vodka. The reason why the brave lad had refused the alcohol was that she wasn't a lad at all. This young lady pilot was Tamara Pamyatunk, a member of the Soviet Air Force's 586th Night Bomber Regiment, their most highly decorated female unit. Although the Soviet armed forces initially banned women from fighting, it was on the 8th of October 1941 that the Soviet Premier, Joseph Stalin, issued an order to deploy 3 Women's Air Force units, primarily made up from female volunteers in their late teens and early 20s, into active duty. Basing combat facilitated and ushered in a reluctant acceptance of women in the military based more upon practicality and necessity than for equality. Every able-bodied Soviet was expected to fight to defend their motherland. The world witnessed how these loyal Soviet women served on the front lines and excelled in specialized duties that were formerly inaccessible. The famed all-female Soviet fighter pilot regiments exemplified this. Approximately 400,000 women fought for the Red Army on the front lines of the 800,000 who volunteered for service during World War II. Combat training, including instruction in mortars, light and heavy machine guns or automatic rifles, was given to a third of the women, and another 300,000 served in the anti-aircraft units and performed all functions in the batteries, including firing the guns. Gender did not limit these women from serving their country and performing their loyal duty. The 586th Regiment that Tamara Pamiatank belonged to was a remarkable unit. It was one of 3 specialist aviation regiments founded by Marina Reskova at the start of the war, after she managed to convince Stalin that all-female units were not only possible, but would produce good results. 25 women who graduated from their Yak 1 training course on the 9th of December 1941 became the founder pilots. The unit was very successful, and they produced aces. Lydia Litviak was the first female fighter pilot to shoot down an enemy aircraft, and the first of 2 fighter aces that the women's unit produced. Flying a Yak 1 on the 13th of September, she was protecting Stalingrad when she attacked a formation of Junkers Ju-88s, one of which she shot down. As the German aircraft spiraled down in flames, she spotted her unit commander, Raisa Believer, in trouble with a Bf-109 on her tail. She closed on the fighter, and with a few well-aimed bursts, shot that aircraft down as well. The Bf-109, Gustav, was piloted by a decorated pilot from the 4th Air Fleet, the 11th Victory Ace, Staff Sergeant Owen Mayer of the 2nd Staffel of Jägerschwader 5-3. Mayer parachuted down from his aircraft and was captured by Soviet troops. He asked to see the Russian ace who had shot him down, but when he was taken to Litviak, he thought he was being made the butt of a Soviet joke. It was not until she described to him each move of the fight in perfect detail that he knew he had been shot down by a woman pilot. She flew 66 combat missions and accounted for at least 10 enemy aircraft before being shot down herself. On August 1st, 1943, Litviak did not come back to her base at Krasny Luch. It was her 4th sortie of the day, escorting a flight of Ilyushin IL-2 ground attack aircraft. As the Soviets were returning to their base near Orel, a pair of Bf-109 fighters dived on Litviak while she was attacking a large group of German bombers. Soviet pilot Ivan Borisenko recalled, "Lily just didn't see the Messerschmitt 109s flying cover for the German bombers. A pair of them dived on her, and when she did see them, she turned to meet them. Then they all disappeared behind a cloud." Borisenko, involved in the dogfight, saw her the last time through a gap in the clouds, her Yak 1 pouring smoke and pursued by as many as 8 Bf-109s. Later, Borisenko descended to see if he could find her, but no parachute could be seen and there was no explosion, and she never returned from the mission. Litviak was 21 years old. Yekaterina Budanova was the other ace, with a score of 6 enemy aircraft and a number of shared kills. She served with Litviak and had kills on bombers such as the Ju-88, as well as fighters, the Bf-109 and Focke-Wulf 190 and Bf-110, but the day she died, she took on an impossible task. She spotted 3 Messerschmitts going on the attack against a group of bombers. Katya attacked and diverted the enemy. A desperate fight developed in the air, but Katya managed to pick up an enemy aircraft in her sights and riddled him with bullets. This was the 5th kill she had achieved personally. Katya's fighter rapidly soared upwards and swooped back down on a second enemy aircraft. She stitched it with bullets, and the second enemy, streaming black smoke, escaped to the west, but Katia's red-starred fighter had been hit. Tongues of flame were already licking at the wings. She managed to put out the fire and force-landed in no man's land, but by the time local farmers had come to pull her from the aircraft, she was already dead. As remarkable as these fighter pilots were, it was the night witches of the 558th Night Bomber Regiment, known later as the 46th Tarman Guard Night Bomber Aviation Regiment, who gained the reputation for striking fear into the hearts of the Nazi soldiers. The aircraft that these women flew was the Polikarpov PO-2, an uncomplicated biplane used mainly as a trainer and agricultural crop sprayer, but could truly be classed as a general-purpose machine. It was produced to replace the U-1 trainer, itself a copy of the Avro 504. It normally flew around at a mere 60 knots, but in a dive it could reach a distinctly unimpressive 82 knots. However, its low speed and high maneuverability could give it a distinct advantage, since attacking fighters could easily be made to overshoot. With a crew of 2, its armament was a single .30 machine gun mounted in the rear cockpit, but it could carry a useful load of 650 kilograms, it's about 110 pounds, bombs. It fulfilled a myriad of military roles, such as liaison, medevac, and as a supply aircraft, particularly to the Soviet partisans behind the front lines, since it could operate from very tight spaces. However, its most famous role was as a night low-level bomber. Not only was it slow, it was vulnerable, and its wood and canvas construction meant that it was easily set on fire. Despite this, some 30,000 were built, making it the most produced biplane in history. Its engine, a Shevetsov M11D 5-cylinder radial, which produced a mere 125 horsepower, had a most unusual noise, which led to the Wehrmacht troops to nickname it the sewing machine, whilst the Finnish troops called it the nerve saw. Apparently, during its low-altitude night bombing missions, it was a nerve-wracking noise to hear. For these night missions, a common tactic was for it to be throttled back, and with the wind whistling eerily through the wire braces, it would sound like an unearthly harbinger of doom. Although the material effects of these night bombing runs would often be limited, the psychological effect was noticeable, as the surprise attacks kept troops awake at night and continually on their guard in case of another whispering attack. German soldiers likened the sound to broomsticks, and it was they who named the pilots night witches. Due to the weight of the bombs and the low altitude of the flight, the pilots carried no parachutes. Instead, they took more bombs. One pilot explained, "If we are shot down over enemy territory, then it's better to die than fall into the hands of the fascists." Although the aircraft were obsolete and slow, the pilots made daring use of their exceptional maneuverability. They had the advantage of having a maximum speed that was lower than the stalling speed of both the Messerschmitt Bf 109 and the Focke-Wulf 190. As a result, the German pilots found them very difficult to shoot down. So successful was their tactics that the Luftwaffe took the idea and set up their own harassment combat squadrons on the Eastern Front, using obsolete 1930-era open cockpit biplanes such as the Gotha GO-145. The Night Witch's usual tactic involved flying only a few meters above the ground, climbing for the final approach, throttling back the engine, and making a gliding bombing run, leaving the targeted troops with only the eerie noise of the wings' bracing wires as an indication of the impending attack. So loathed were they that any German pilot who downed a witch was automatically awarded an Iron Cross. The Soviet pilots' skills were even more remarkable, considering the limited technology the women had at their disposal. The witches, they took the German epitaph as a badge of honor, flew only in the dark. They had no radar to navigate their paths through the night skies, only maps and compasses. If hit by tracer bullets, their craft would ignite like the paper planes they resembled, which was no small concern. Almost every time, one recalled, we had to sail through a wall of enemy fire. Their missions were dangerous and incredibly tiring. Each night, in general, 40 planes, each crewed by 2 women, a pilot and a navigator, would fly 8 or more missions, with some pilots amassing up to 18 in a single night. These were night maximum, when we were in the air for 8 or 9 hours in a row, one girl described. After 3 or 4 flights, the eyes closed by themselves. While the navigator went to the KP to report on the flight, the female pilot slept in the cockpit for a few minutes, while the armorers hung bombs and the mechanics filled the plane with gasoline and oil. The navigator would return and the female pilot woke up. It was a tremendous strain of physical and mental strength. When dawn came, we could barely move our legs or go to the dining room, hoping to have breakfast and sleep as soon as possible. At breakfast, we were given some wine, which was supposed to help the pilot sleep after the combat work. But still, the dreams were disturbing. We dreamed of searchlights and anti-aircraft guns. Some had persistent insomnia. The women's uniforms were hand-me-downs from male pilots, and their planes had open cockpits, leaving the women's faces to freeze in the chilly night air. When the wind was strong, it would toss the plane, they said. In winter, when you'd look out to see your target better, you got frostbite. Our feet froze in our boots, but we carried on flying. Another pilot described her task thus. Bombing from an aircraft is difficult, and bombardment with a PO-2 is doubly difficult. You must be able to accurately pave the way to the goal, to find it without reference points, without illuminating lights, often cleverly disguised. And here comes to the fore the skill of the navigator. You can, of course, illuminate the target with SABs, but that will catch fire at a distance of 300 or 400 meters from the ground and will hang on parachutes for a long time. But with heavy clouds, thick haze, smoke screens set by the enemy to hide the object, SABs are useless. It takes experience to discover the target and hit it. We had to drop bombs of different weight and size, 25, 50, 100 kilogram, fragmentation, high explosive, thermite, self-igniting liquid, and the small bombs, including anti-tank grenades, which we took in the cabin itself. But their missions were having an effect. In Hitler's Luftwaffe, the possibility of the PO-2 was scornfully evaluated. In the first year of the war, the Germans laughed, calling it a miracle of technology and jesting that it was Russian plywood. But as soon as the female regiments began to act at the front, the term Russian mosquito aviation began to appear in the enemy's headquarters documents. Captured soldiers of the Wehrmacht revealed there is no life from the PO-2 plane. The stoves and fires cannot be fired. The PO-2 plane sees them and throws bombs there. It finds us everywhere. We have to sit in trenches all night so as not to have group losses. In other situations, Russian plywood was completely indispensable. In the Caucasus, when German tanks crawled into the gorges at night, attack aircraft could not reach them. The Night Witches aircraft, equipped with captured incendiary bombs, they could do it. They first attacked the head tank of the column, then the closing one, then all the others. The Night Witches flew over 23,000 sorties, dropping over 3,000 tons of bombs and many thousand incendiary shells during the war, and became one of the most highly decorated female units of the Soviet Air Force. Many pilots flew over 800 missions, and by the end of the war, 23 pilots had been awarded the Hero of the Soviet Union, the highest honor of the Soviet Union. One general, male, initially complained about being sent a bunch of girlies instead of soldiers, but the women, in their flimsy little crop dusters and their ill-fitting uniforms, soon proved him wrong. And they did all that whilst decorating their planes with flowers and using their wax navigation pencils as lipstick.
Which is a really good look, if you ask me.
I mean, that's what I use my wax pencils for. Oh, wait. No, I don't.
Well, I wish I could have fitted more in, because they used to use the little mortar parachutes on some of their bombs. They used to make those into bras. I mean, they were they were pretty badly equipped, quite honestly. Not only was their aircraft pretty useless, they were wearing whatever was cast off from the male members of the Air Force. So, yeah,
Right.
they had to really prove themselves.
Well, they were very successful in their missions, nonetheless.
Yes.
I mean, I know we've been talking about this a little bit before, but gosh, they didn't really. I forget how many there were, 200 and something of them in total, and they only lost 23.
Yeah.
For those fairly dangerous missions that they were flying, sorties that they were flying.
Those night missions were really dangerous. Not only was the actual flying very dangerous, of course, they were in an aircraft that was incredibly vulnerable. It had no armor whatsoever, and it really was a sort of World War I vintage biplane. So,
and I don't know if you said, I don't think they had parachutes until like the last year of the.
That's right. They decided that they were too low, flying too low to even bother trying to parachute out. And anyway, they wanted to carry the same weight of parachute in bombs, because they wanted to inflict as much damage. And they did all sorts of jobs. They, they kept their own frontline troops, and troops who were cut off, supplied with, food. So they did a myriad of jobs, not just these night bombing missions. And those that went on to fly the Yak fighters, they did a grand job as well. They proved themselves just as capable as the men as doing those jobs.
Or more so.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they seemed to be incredibly determined to get their jobs done. And they were so young. The average age was 19.
What?
So,
wow.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
Fascinating stuff.
Yeah, I know. We don't hear much about it across our side of the world, because but in Russia, of course, they're much celebrated. And I think one of the last members of the Night Witches passed away only a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
No, I love that story. That's great.
Yeah, thanks for doing that, Nick.
Well, it was thanks to that lovely lady who left her feedback last show, who suggested it, and I'm desperately trying to remember her name because I didn't write it down. But it is in the at the end of that show. I attribute it to. Her.
Was it like Wendy, or I know what you're talking about. I don't remember her name either, but she was talking about the whole Southwest thing and the importance of role models that are people like you, right?
That's that right.
Yeah,
Heather
Allen.
It. Thank you.
That's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for suggesting that as a plain tale subject, Heather. That worked out well, I think.
Yeah, and I got some information from one of our Russian listeners as well, who helped me out with some links and information. So that was most useful too.
Excellent. All right, let's move on. Try to knock out as many of these feedback items as possible. Starting with item 6 from George. I think this is George Nolly, isn't it?
I don't know, actually.
let me
Usually he
see.
writes his whole name in the feedback. Is
George
it?
Nolly.
Okay.
Yes. Hi, Jeff. For the 17-year-old who has not finished high school, I totally agree with you that she should concentrate on her education as a priority. There's a lot she can accomplish in the next year. The GED, she needs to get that right away. She can get some college credit by taking exams online. And then George gave us a couple of links, URLs. And without a great academic foundation, there is little likelihood for success at the Air Force Academy, even if she gets in through some lucky great for her congressman. Lucky, I'm not sure that was right.
Through some,
Maybe grant or something.
Grant, probably.
But the Academy has a prep school for prospective candidates who need additional foundational education. An Air Force recruiter can fill her in on the requirements, such as enlisting first. Regarding code share safety records, back when code sharing first started, most airlines would conduct safety audits of their code share partners. United would audit Lufthansa, then Lufthansa would audit United, then United would audit All Nippon, then All Nippon would audit United, and so on ad nauseum. Every airline audit department was either auditing another airline or receiving an audit. Finally, a consolidated audit system evolved, managed by the International Air Transport Association, IATA. It's called the IATA Operational Safety Audit, IOSA. Every IATA member that is on the IATA IOSA registry gets audited by a certified IOSA audit organization every 2 years. If they don't pass or correct deficiencies before their registration expiration, they are removed from the registry and can no longer participate in code share agreements. An IOSA is a big deal for airlines. I led an IOSA audit team for a couple of years, and typically we would brief the airline CEO and all the other big shots on a daily basis during the 5-day audit conducted by the team of 5 auditors who would look at every aspect of the airline. More information about IOSAs are here, and they gave us a link, which we'll have in the show notes. To see if the airline you're going to fly on is on the IOSA registry, you can search for their name at this link that we'll have in the show notes. I wouldn't even think of flying on an airline that isn't on the registry. Hope this helps, George. Again, George Nolly from the Ready for Takeoff podcast. Another great aviation podcast that I didn't mention at the beginning of the show. See, I told you there would be some that I completely forgot about. Many people in the chat room said, yeah, Betty in the Sky with the suitcase, and Pilot to Pilot, and others. Yeah. Okay. Joe, no, I'm sorry. Which one we're going to do next?
11?
11, thanks. I didn't have that up. I asked Liz to kind of help prioritize some of these as we get close to the end of this show. Number 11, Mark writes, do any modern airliners, aside from the RJs that have air stairs, do any other modern airliners have air stairs? I guess what he's saying is like built-in air stairs.
Yes, I believe he means like connected as part of the aircraft, so that when you arrive somewhere, you don't have to rely on a stairs truck.
Yes. I used to love boarding from the tarmac and watching them deploy the stairs from under the door on the classic DC-9s and 737s. I don't know. I'm not even sure it's an option anymore. Do you know, Nick, if there are any like the Airbus 320, 319, 318s, or 321s? Is that even an
I don't
option?
believe any of those have that option, but no, I might have to be corrected, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
Generally, those sort of old-fashioned things like 7.2s and
right. Well, we have on the 727 and then also on the MD-88s and MD-90s that Acme flies have the rear air stairs, but they also, when you're doing your walk around, you see this every time, right below the main entrance door, the L1 door, there's a panel there, and it's bolted closed, and I believe that the annunciation system for letting us know whether a door or hatch or whatever is open or closed is still active. I could be wrong about that, but that because the DC-9 had these as an option to have its own air stairs pop out below that forward entry door on the left side. The MD-80, the Mad Dog series also had them, and somebody told me I think that the whole stair mechanism is still in there. I'm not sure if that's correct or not.
Oh, interesting.
That
It's a lot of weight to carry,
I
right?
was going to say
Yeah.
that doesn't really seem to make any sense that they would still have the actual stairs in there, but I guess at least the door is there, the panel, and we always have to make sure that that's all shut. None of those bolts or screws are missing.
No, you really have to go down to sort of the lemon. The Phenom, and those kind of jets where you drop the door down and it turns into a door.
Built into the door.
Yeah, he mentioned the regional jets. Certainly, the CRJs and then things like that have the smaller Embraers, like the 145, I believe.
I'll
has.
tell you what, we've got a ladder. Does that help? I mean, you can climb down through the cockpit floor into the avionics and then go through the avionics hatch, and there's a retractable ladder that we can put down. Does that count?
Well, that's kind of inconvenient for the passengers, I think.
Well, it is a bit difficult. Yeah, I must admit.
Yeah.
It's hard enough for us, but
yeah.
I mean, I guess it works. I wouldn't call them air stairs. I'd call it a ladder.
You can't really put them out in the air, no.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Let's move on. 13. Thomas sent us some audio feedback regarding amateur radio stuff. I think this one's probably aimed at Nick. Oops.
Hello, APG crew. This is.
Wow, how did that happen? Oh,
What?
The Bluetooth is still connected.
Is it going to
It's that
screech
stupid
again?
little speaker that
Please,
that I thought
please
I'd
don't make it
turned
make
off.
that noise anymore.
But I disconnected it completely but apparently it has Bluetooth capability as well.
Oh no.
Okay.
Back up again. Well done.
Yeah, all right. This is going to be so easy to edit. That's just.
Oh, we could just do it again tomorrow.
Well, I'm
Yeah, we
thinking
could
about that
start
might
over.
actually be easier. Okay, here we go.
Hello, APG crew. This is Thomas in Asheville, North Carolina. And just thought I'd leave you a quick feedback regarding one of the last episodes where Captain Nick had mentioned that in his retirement, he may try to start an APG net or something like that via ham radio. And I'd just like to say I'm all for that. I'm a ham radio operator. The call sign is K4SWL, Sierra Whiskey Lima. And Nick in the UK, I live there. And so was licensed there. My call sign there is M0 Charlie Yankee India, CYI. And I'd love to participate in a net, either on HF or via digital mode, whatever. It doesn't matter. It sounds like a lot of fun. And I'd like to comment, maybe this is just for Nick, but he had kind of mentioned in passing that he was hoping his lovely wife would surprise him with a gift of an ICOM IC 7300 HF transceiver. And I hope she does that, Nick, because, wow, that's an amazing radio. I review radios. I alpha and beta test radios for various radio manufacturers and write reviews for magazines and that sort of thing. And the 7300 is just a really sweet spot in the amateur radio market. It's a fantastic transceiver at a great price point, loaded with features, can do pretty much anything you want to do. So well played. And I've yet to listen to Captain Nick's crew log about HF communications. I've got that on my list. I'd like to listen to that. And maybe he answers this question, but really the one thing that I think as much as I know about sort of radio communications, I know very little about aviation traffic because I'm not a pilot, not yet. I plan to do that maybe within a decade or so, try to get a private pilot license. But when I listen to the aviation bands, and I do listen to them quite a bit, it amazes me the amount of times people change frequencies. And I'm guessing that the first officer, or whoever's not flying at the time, is the one that's doing all that. Do your aircraft, then, I guess maybe this is my question, do your aircraft make it easy to make those changes? Because it seems to me like it's a lot of frequency hopping around, but I guess you can pre-plan all of that. Sorry for all the ambient noise, by the way. I'm out walking my dog here near downtown Asheville, so here's some traffic and birds and things. Anyway, yeah, I'm very curious about that. I'm assuming that probably on the Airbus systems that it's relatively automated. At least maybe it makes it easier on you. I'm guessing on the Mad Dog, it's like an analog tuning dial, maybe with tubes and things, and you have to wait for the set to warm up. Sorry for the jab. Anyway, if you could speak about that, that'd be fantastic. Again, this is Thomas in Asheville. Thank you very much for all you guys do. I love the podcast. Listen to it all the time. And 7-3s, everyone.
Again, that was Thomas Witherspoon, Kilo 4, Sierra Whiskey Lima, and Mike Oscar Charlie Yankee India for the
close.
I guess
Mike 0.
I'm sorry,
Mike 0, Charlie Yankee India.
Is that so? Do you have to have like a different identification if you're over across?
No, you can carry a call sign with you, but I guess Thomas was resident in the UK for a while and did a UK license, in which case he probably carries both. I'm not an expert in this. I dabbled a bit a few years ago, and I'm sort of rejoining the community and getting the hang of it. So Thomas obviously knows a great deal more than I do, but I suspect he did a UK license and did an American license, so he's got both call signs. But thanks very much indeed. I actually, Thomas has a very good blog. And I read his review and listened to the audio he produced concerning that set after I'd purchased it. And it's sitting here right beside me. It's a perfect desktop set, and it's producing great results. I haven't got into the States yet, so that's one thing I have to try and do. I might have a go after we finish the show tonight. But yeah. Definitely up for trying to make contact with everyone. I think there's at least 3 of us now. With me makes 4. Any others out there? Let's try and get a little list together, and we'll try and have some time when we can try and all find each other, which would be great fun.
Regarding his question about how easy it is to dial up the frequencies on airplanes, is he talking about UHF or VHF frequencies, or is he talking about HF frequencies?
I think.
Well, I guess both. Yeah, but I suspect.
I mean, especially if you're switching frequently, that would be more VHF. No.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well.
But it makes no difference to us. The system of doing it is identical, whether we're using HF or VHF. How about you, Jeff? Do you have to wind the aerial out on that big reel and trail it behind the airplane?
We have to depressurize. We have to open up the back hatch and
trail the big aerial.
Trail that big aerial out, and then that the big giant is like a huge knob, like 12 inches in diameter. That the guy kind of starts rotating and making all those crazy. Rangoon. No, it's all digital. It's like little knobs that we just turn, and we can put in the actual, the actual frequency digitally.
Works the same way on GA.
I don't know if yours works the same. We have 2 windows. One's the active frequency, and one is one we can use to set up a frequency.
We have more than 2 windows.
Do you really?
Wow.
Yeah, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, including the eyebrow windows.
Oh yeah. Okay. Very good.
Oh, you're talking about
good visibility on the
very good visibility. Well, yeah. On the radio we have 2 little LED displays.
Gotcha. Sorry.
And we as the guy's giving us the new frequency, I'm already dialing it in. The one knob controls the first 3 digits, the second knob the second 3 digits. So you wind them in, then as soon as you've acknowledged it, you just press a button, and the frequencies that are in those 2 windows flip, so that your standby frequency now becomes your live frequency, and vice versa. So you can always go back to the frequency you're previously working just at the press of a button in case you got it wrong and no one answers you or something.
Yeah,
goes
that's
wrong there.
helpful sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, ours is not a button because we're old technology. It's actually like a little toggle
switch.
Like a little toggle switch that we move back and forth.
All right. Okay.
But
HF is the same. The only annoying thing I find about RHF is it's sort of they've tried to go for the way that my set beside me and most decent HF sets work. In other words, it's got a lovely big smooth tuning knob, and we always like big knobs. And they you wind it round, the frequency changes very easy now. And the Airbus, you're still using the knob that is what's the term you use for it when it clicks? It clicks as you turn it. They've tried to introduce the same thing in the HF bands, which are not so easy to tune or set the numbers up. And if you twirl that knob quickly, it leaps up frequencies, and it's very easy to go straight past the frequency you wanted to set in there, and you've got to wind it back, and you have to be really quite careful at the speed at which you turn that, because it's a very clumsy device to get those frequencies set up. But the HF works exactly the same as the VHF. You just dial in the precise frequency and then push it across onto the active window, and there it is, ready to be used. And we have an ATU that tunes in very quickly. And that ATU, aerial tuning unit, has a number of memorized frequencies. So normally the ATU tunes very quickly in 2 or 3 seconds. But if you've got one that's an unusual frequency, has been used and isn't in its memory, then it'll probably take 15 or 20 seconds. And all you hear on the headphones are this loud tone whilst it tries to grab the frequency and tune the antenna. But I think from our point of view, most of our aircraft radios aren't that powerful, but I think the ground radio stations at both the west side in Canada at Gander and the east side in Ireland at Shamwick, they probably have very powerful beams, and you can often tell when you're coming on frequency if they're going to point their beams more in your direction. Then the quality improves remarkably.
He has a very powerful beam.
Yes, we like that. I don't. I have just a little vertical.
Powerful beams and large knobs.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, also we should mention that Thomas also is the he has a web site, and well, I guess this is his blog site, swling.com, and he is quite an expert out there in this world of shortwave radio. So
yeah,
and right up the road from me in Asheville.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah,
did we answer his question though? What we did about the frequency. Oh, I have a question for Nick. I noticed that a lot of times the frequencies are given as like 127 dot or decimal 252 or 255 or whatever. I don't know if that's really a real discrete frequency, but do you have all those digits after the decimal point? Because we only have 2 digits beyond the decimal point on the airplane that I fly.
We have had to move across to a smaller frequency separation. So it's I think it's down to 0.8 of a kilohertz or something. So we have to have 3 digits.
Ah, okay.
And for us, it's quite confusing because all our boxes have been updated, and the UK controllers will usually give us the VHF frequency down to 3 digits after the decimal, after the point, and in the States they often don't. And they're getting better, but sometimes you don't know whether it's I'm taking off the top of my head 132.450 or 455, because they don't specify, because they only give 2 digits.
So I would assume that it would be a 0 than the last decimal point, right?
Not always. Sometimes
not always.
5.
Yeah, exactly. So you
Oh,
do
that's
need
weird.
to if they don't give that last digit, you do need, and it's there on your set, you do need to ask them because
Oh, okay.
it ain't going to
So
work up
for the
there.
set that I'm using, then it doesn't really matter if I put it like 127.25. I'm just going to put that in. But even if it's 127.255 or whatever, I guess the radio just takes care of it on its own.
Well, I'm assuming you've got an unmodified set. I don't know
Oh, I don't know.
because you should
I'm
be able to
They only
select
gave you
between the.
2 digits after the decimal. That's all you have to put in the.
But I mean, that's all I have. That's all
Right.
I
Oh, I
can
know.
put in.
You don't have to worry about whether it's a 0 or a 5 because it doesn't make any difference for the first two digits for you. It'll
Yeah,
be on the
on,
correct frequency.
on that particular frequency you picked, yes,
Mm-hmm.
there's only one. But some frequencies have a 0 or a 5 after them. So
in other words, we can't go flying that darn thing around in Europe because then we couldn't get some of the frequencies then.
I'm surprised you can still fly around the States, but
shut up.
Frankly, we're just surprised that the thing flies.
Yeah.
Wow. I really threw up a big softball for you guys on that one. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, my fault. Okay.
You know,
that's
we love the Mad Dogs. Save the Mad Dogs.
I know
really.
you do. Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't care. We're getting close to the end of the show. Thank goodness. What a train wreck this has been.
Yeah, well, we haven't covered ourselves in glory tonight. Yeah.
No, we haven't. Sorry. We apologize. If this is the first time you're listening to our show, really, we usually do better.
Yeah, it's not always like this. Yeah, sometimes it's worse.
Sometimes it is worse. This was, average, not great.
Okay, whatever you say. Last item we're going to do on today's show is from Nick Camacho, and he sent us some audio feedback. So let's listen to what he has to say.
Stand by, guys. Here we go. Making the right one.
Hey, Captain Jeff and the rest of the APG crew. This is Nick from the Air Capital and from Betsy's Biscuit Bomber, the C-47, heading over to Europe this summer. And I thought I'd send in some more feedback regarding our airplane and our trip. Today, I figured I'd cover the history of our airplane and kind of let you guys know how it came to be in our care. And in the interest of full disclosure, I will say I tried to make this recording covering the history and then the maintenance that we've been doing, and it was just too long. So to try to make Jeff's job a little easier, I think I'm gonna split those two things up into separate feedbacks. So today we cover the history. Our airplane is a Douglas C-47B, as in Bravo. It was contracted in 1943. Our serial number is 43-48608, and the 43 at the beginning of that serial number denotes the contract year. Now, the contract year is different than the year of the airplane because our airplane actually came off the line in April of 44. And the airplane was delivered in theater in September of 1944 to the 9th Air Force, 302nd Air Transport Wing, 27th Air Transport Group. Little light bulbs might have gone off in some of y'all's heads as you were listening. If you thought, wait a minute, that was after D-Day. As a matter of fact, it was. Our airplane was off the production line prior to D-Day, but it actually didn't make it over into theater until September of 1944. So our airplane did not participate in D-Day. It is not a D-Day veteran. However, it is a war veteran, a military veteran. It served with the Air Force from September of 44 through the end of the war, doing a lot of logistics missions, moving ammunition, fuel, and that sort of stuff. After the war in 1946, the airplane was loaned to the Belgian Air Force. In 1952, the airplane returned to the United States Air Force. I say returned to the United States Air Force, but it's a little bit weird there because the States Army Air Corps loaned the airplane out, and now in 1952, the airplane is being returned to the relatively newly established, 4 or 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years prior, United States Air Force. In 1953, they turned around and loaned the airplane out to the French Air Force. And then in 1967, the airplane was loaned out to the Israeli Air Force and maintained in a state called war readiness. Now, my understanding of war readiness and Israel and the Israelis' use of it is that they would park these airplanes out in the desert, and they would maintain the airplanes and the paperwork and records as though they were flying airplanes, always flying. But these airplanes never flew. So every year they'd pull the airplanes out and do the annuals, or in our case, and probably in their case, I suspect, phase inspections, which is a little bit different than an annual, and I might hit on that next time around on maintenance. They'd run the engines, they'd do everything, and then they'd put the airplane back in storage for the rest of the year. And they did that basically so that if anything happened, they didn't have to spend a month or a week or even a day getting that airplane ready to go to war. They could pull it out of storage and it would be ready to go. So that's how it sat with the Israeli Air Force, and that has actually that state actually led to it having an incredibly low amount of airframe hours, which I'll get to here down towards the end. So Israelis for about 30 years, 32, 33 years. In 1999, it was sold to Global Aircraft Industries, who's kind of an aircraft broker, aircraft trader, aircraft collector. And they flew the airplanes to Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, where they were stored in 2002. And I say airplanes because they bought either 6 or 8 and flew them all back there. So when our group went up to look at them, they actually had a whole bunch of C-47s lined up, and we were able to go through and look and inspect all of them and pick the one that we liked the most. And I say we. I actually didn't get involved in the group until the tail end of 2009. So this is still all before my time. So 2002, airplanes stored in Canada. 2007, November 47 Sierra Juliet, that's our airplane, is acquired by the Gooney Group. That's our group. It's a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. It was basically stood up as a organization that could take ownership of this airplane, maintain it, and operate it as a historical venture. We acquired the airplane, flew it to Paso, spent about 2.5 years, almost 3 years, restoring it, working on it. It actually came down to the States in a very worn, faded, and tattered Israeli Air Force paint scheme. So one of the big things that was done at our museum by our guys was they painted it into a authentic D-Day paint scheme, which, as I mentioned previously, is actually not authentic for our airplane. But it did have invasion stripes that went all the way around. It actually had a squadron code of U5, Uniform 5, up on the nose, which was also not accurate for our airplane. But it is a pretty popular. You do see it fairly often on C-47s, and I don't know if that's because of the documentation that exists. There are a fair amount of pictures of C-47s, wartime C-47s with that code, and on D-Day with that code. So I don't know if that has led to the propagation of that, but I know even Captain Jeff sent me a message a few days ago or a week or two ago about a memorial that he walks by, and it has a picture of a C-47 with the U5 flash code on it. So if you guys ever see any pictures of our airplane with that's basically what's going on. That was the first paint scheme we had. It wasn't super authentic, so when we got the airplane repainted in 2013, we went to a more authentic paint scheme. Unfortunately, well, I have to be careful how I said this. This is the second time I've actually recorded this for 2 reasons. Number one, it got real long, so I cut the maintenance part out. But also, I went back through and listened, and I said, unfortunately, between 2009 and 2013, I got married. That's not what I meant. What I meant to say was,
Really?
Wonderfully, gratefully, I got married in 2011. But unfortunately, my little groom's cake, the little wedding cake I had, was actually done up in the shape of a C-47, and it was painted like our airplane with the U-5 flash code and everything on it. So I actually have a number of wedding pictures of me and my wife sitting next to my little wedding cake painted in the incorrect scheme of our airplane. But not unfortunate. The wedding was not the unfortunate part of that. So then that's basically how the airplane came to being with us, and then started flying it regularly in 2009, flew to Oshkosh in 2010, and we've been flying it more or less consistently since then. It's been down a couple of times for some major maintenance, which I'll get into next time. But that's how it came to be, Betsy's Biscuit Bomber and flying around with the Goonie Bird group. So until next time, Jeff, thanks for the time. We'll talk to you guys again soon.
All right. Thank you, Nick, for the update on Betsy's Biscuit Bomber. And I'm going to put...
He said, oh, real quick, he didn't actually mention it in the audio recorded. The engine noise at the very beginning was the newly installed right-hand engine on the plane. So brand new.
Yeah. And I think he said he's going to talk about that in the second part.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't specifically mention that, but he said in the writing, the text, that he forgot to mention that he's going to cover that on a later feedback.
I wonder where you get a brand new engine for one of those things from. I mean,
they still make them.
How much does that? Yeah.
Really?
Sets you back just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what he means by brand new, but maybe most of everything on there is a new part. I don't know.
Wow.
And he also mentioned, and we've mentioned this before as well on the show, Hillel got a channel set up for him and their group on the APG Slack team. It's called C47 D-Day Epic. And he said, I've made a few comments there, but we'll be working to add more trip info and some little tidbits about our airplane and group. And he said, I've attached some pictures of the various iterations of our airplane's paint scheme here, and I'll also drop them in the Slack channel, so they'll be easy to find. Well, if you're listening to this show and you go to the show notes and you click on the link, you will see the beautiful photos here of the actual airplane and the cake that is meant to portray the airplane, and of course Nick's beautiful wife, who apparently he feels unfortunate to have married. No, I'm just kidding.
Sorry, you really dropped him in it now.
Next time I see Nick, he'll say, yeah, thanks, Jeff, we're not married anymore.
Did me a favor there.
Anyway, good stuff. And boy, I wish I was going to be able to be over in Europe to see some of that stuff that you're going to participate in. That looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love the photos. That's great.
Yeah, great photos. Great airplane. The funny thing is, I thought when I sent him the photo of the model in the display case in the Atlanta airport, that U5, I was thinking, is that supposed to be US? But it kind of looks like a 5 to me. Now I get it. Thank you for straightening that fact out in my mind, Nick. And so it is really U5, not US. Okay. That is it. Anything else to add before we shut this thing down?
Yes. The two folk I were going to thank for, I've got their names now, for tonight's plane tale was Heather Allen, we've mentioned, and Evgeny Avramenko. So one of our Russian listeners, and provided me with a lot of input there and places to go. Unfortunately, some of the Google translation wasn't very easy to understand, but I got the hang of most of it. But thank you very much, Evgeny.
Excellent. So all of the pieces of feedback that we weren't able to get to on today's show will be moved to the next show folder, and we'll hopefully be able to cover that next time. And if you want to send us feedback, you can do that by sending it to feedback@airlinepilotguy.com. You can use the website's going to tell you to use that address as well, because we haven't fixed that yet. But if you have the app on your phone, iOS and Android, You can use the feature to send us feedback there. We have SpeakPipe. We have all kinds of different ways to send us feedback in addition to our social media presence.
Indeed, you can head over to twitter.com and using the handle at APG Crew, interact with us there. We're all there individually as well. That information is pinned to the top of the page. Or try facebook.com/airline pilot guy. Lots of community members are there as well and sharing different news stories, aviation happenings, and meetup information.
Excellent. And we also have that Slack team, the APG Slack team, and Hillel is going to tell us about that.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share ideas and news. We suggest episode and Plain Tales topics. We plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK, Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo at airlinepilotguy.com. Or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled HI11E1, Hotel India 11 Echo 1. And see you in Slack.
Thank you very much, Hillel. And wishing everybody listening to the show, thank you, first of all, for downloading the show, listening to it, spreading the word about our show, and leaving reviews on iTunes and all that jazz. And also a big thanks to our producer, Liz, in Toronto.
Woohoo.
Thank you, Liz, for making life so much easier for me and the rest of us. And until next time, wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Talons, Douglas.
Cheers, y'all.
Bye, everybody. Shall I cut my wrist now?
I always had to burp there as I was going to say cheers.
That would have improved the show, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa. All of a sudden, my camera's starting to work again.
Oh, God.
The wrong one, but okay. Let's see if I can get the proper one to work. What a mess. Everything was not working right today.
Just all of the gremlins.
Including my brain.
Well, that's the least of the worries.
Yeah.
You're right. I shouldn't have mixed alcohol with those drugs.
I told you.
I feel awful.
Oh, man. We do apologize for you listening to the live recording of this show. Wow. What a train wreck. Mike Kuipers, are you there today? He'll understand the reference to train wreck. I used to use that term all the time when recording Catholic Weekend. Yeah, so I have some experience with train wrecks. Lots of trains I've been seeing on my trip out west in New Mexico and Arizona.
Arizona, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. Beautiful scenery. Nick, have you ever been out to this part of the world?
No.
I think you'd
we
really
need to
be
do it.
impressed.
Northern Arizona
Yeah,
trip.
it's beautiful.
It's probably my favorite place in the United States that I've been to. Sedona, Flagstaff, Grand Canyon.
Yeah, it's just
Lake Powell.
You just look at some of these structures and the plateaus and the pueblos and all the whatever they're called, and you just want to smile because they're just so beautiful. You're just like, wow, that's just amazing.
Southern Utah too, like south.
Yeah,
like Arches and Canyonlands and
Zion pretty amazing stuff.
Well, I'm
it just
impressed.
goes on and on and on.
Oh yeah,
and
flying
on
into
for
Sedona is a
hours,
treat.
hours.
Nick Camacho is correct about that because the
Yeah,
airport's
Sedona's-
kind of up on one of the bluffs.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and there's a
I've
restaurant
been
too.
there. Yeah, maybe that's a future RV tour.
There you go.
Southwest. Anyway, thank you, everyone. Again, apologies for how crummy the show was tonight. But anyway, that's the way it goes sometimes.
It makes you appreciate the ones that go really smoothly all that much more.
Yeah. and I was really, and the reason why it went so poorly is because I was really hoping that I could just basically just put out our unedited audio, and it would be much easier and this is going to be harder than normal. to make it sound reasonable. But oh well. I'll get to it when I get to it, I guess.
Well, you can do it while you're driving the next 6 hours.
Yeah.
Then you can
I'm sure you
park
can
your
figure out how to do that
laptop.
hands free.
Yeah, park your laptop on
Yeah, I don't
on
think
your
so.
steering
Lane
wheel.
departure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, tomorrow is another many hour drive to Southern California.
It's another like 12 from there.
I
Not
don't
quite.
know.
No, not quite that many. 10.
I hope not. I'm trying to, because I've
8.
been having to get up early and I haven't been getting a lot of sleep, and I'm getting tired of this.
Just think, you get to do it all in reverse.
Yeah. In hindsight, I'm thinking, it wasn't a good idea. Oh well. Let me look at the map here. Maps.com. From Flagstaff to Los Alamitos.
We're talking about airstairs, and said
God.
that Ryanair, all Ryanair's aircraft have them. So
Yeah,
I'm
because
going,
they go to a lot of places that don't have.
Oh, I forgot to
yeah.
mention that. Yeah, I saw that in
So
the
I'm
chat
going,
rooms.
bugger.
Oh, well. So it's only 12 hours.
See, I was right on. 12 hours. Do I know my
Wait a minute.
long distance drives?
No, I'm sorry. It thinks I'm in. It still thinks I'm in Albuquerque.
Oh no, so it's less.
Yeah.
Much less. Like
8,
Oh, 6. I don't know.
let's see.
I
Where
can't
am I?
remember.
Flagstaff?
I feel like it's 4 hours till Las Vegas.
It's only 5 hours from Albuquerque to here.
I could be wrong. It's been a while since I've done those drives.
So what does it say here? Oh, 7 hours. That's much more manageable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hamish says he'll be able to help you with the editing if you want to outsource it. He's got
really?
lots of free time this week.
I was asking a lot there.
Yeah, I don't know.
or offering a lot. I don't know if you
You might want to reconsider that.
magnitude of. That's okay. I can't even get Evernote to open right now to dump my audio into.
Yeah, I'll definitely need that.
No, I figured you would. I'm trying to do it now so I don't forget, because
Okay.
you know how reliable I am about getting the audio to you.
And I'm hoping that, let's see if Dana already did his.
Why did Dana have to leave? Oh, taxman or something.
He was having dinner with
Going out to dinner with his tax man. Sounds like
What?
collusion.
Yeah.
Dana, no. Nick already put you already put your audio in there?
Yeah.
You're on
I
top.
can't get Evernote
I'm
to
quick.
open.
Oh, and I washed my pop filter today.
Oh, good for you.
Getting a little gross.
Well, I was looking down at it going, I don't really want to talk into that anymore.
That's why you're getting sick so often.
It could be. Yeah, could be.
Well, Evernote has opened and now it needs to
Update. It'll only take a week.
425 files.
You can send it via Dropbox if you'd prefer.
No, my Dropbox is full and no longer working, so
Oh,
that's annoying.
okay. Well, whatever. At least you have the process started. That's good. And I think that we can. Hey, anybody in the chat room familiar with restaurants in Flagstaff?
Oh God, it's been ages since I've actually eaten downtown. Are you downtown?
Well, the whole area is like pretty much downtown, right?
Like within walking distance? Is that what you're?
No, I'm driving distance.
Oh, that's right. You have a car.
Yeah.
That's what I would go to. Hold on. What is the name of it? Oregano's, if it still exists.
IHOP.
Oregano's.
Oh yeah, that's
it's over.
No, Oregano's is like I'm in a hotel that's just literally like 2 blocks away from Oregano's.
Oh, go to Oregano's. Get the
It's not oregano.
The
It's oregano.
Oregano. Oh man, I can't remember what it was. It was so good.
It was probably
I
Italian.
would know it when I saw it on the menu.
Okay.
Let me look it up. Hold on.
Rosemary.
You don't have to stand there.
Garlic.
Oh, that's right. You said that you went to school here, so
I did, but that was a long time ago. That was in the year 2000 and 2001. Things change. I've driven through there recently, but I
So
don't think we stopped for food.
I'll bet that Oregano's where you remember it is probably different than where it is now. I'm on Country Club Drive or something like that. If there was even was there a country club there when you were going to school here?
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. But anyway,
Oh, you're the one on Country Club.
It looks pretty new.
Let me see here.
I mean, it looks all nice and shiny.
No, that's definitely not where it was. Oh, there's a golf club there. What do you know? No, the one I went to is over like basically on campus.
Oh, okay.
So
Sounds like the same restaurant though.
It might be. I want to see their website for it's like pizza and Italian stuff. It's not super fancy, but it was always
I don't care.
Reliable.
I'm building a Boeing in case you're interested.
So Mike Kuipers, I don't know if I ever told the story to you all here. He said, "Hey Jeff, at least you didn't play the Betty Rubble giggle." Did I ever tell you about that story on Catholic Weekend?
I don't think so.
So I forgot why I was looking up Betty Rubble's giggle. Let's see if I can find it. Betty Rubble, here it is.
Is it a plastic Boeing? What are you? It sounds like styrofoam or something. Actually,
well, it's really badly packed.
Oh man, what is that?
Wait a minute. No, stop it.
Fuselage.
Stop it. Darn it.
Oh, I think they had like an artichoke dip that was really good.
This kind of reminds me of the way the real airplane's built.
So you guys aren't interested in my story?
I am. I'm listening.
Betty Rubble, I'm waiting for the punchline.
Okay. Well, let me see if I can find this.
I nearly dropped this 7.3.
Okay, so we were talking about a very, one of the hosts was talking about a very, very serious tragedy that happened in Guatemala, I believe, like a big flood that killed people.
I'm laughing not because of the tragedy, because
you know where I'm
going to come next.
So I'm listening to this, and it's very somber, and it's really, really poignant kind of story. And I don't know why, but I was looking up the sound effect, and I didn't realize it was going to come through. Actually, it was I found it, and it just was on the autoplay on a website. And so in the middle of all this, talking about all the hundreds of people that passed away, we hear this.
No.
It couldn't have been a worse sound effect to play. And he just stopped. He just like, I can't really.
I can't talk about this.
And I'm so sorry. I really didn't intend to play that. It had nothing to do with the story about death. It was so horrible.
Oh dear, Jeff, you're going to hell, mate. You're going to hell.
That was one of the quote highlights of
the show.
When we did one of our like big milestone episodes, we had to play some of those really poorly executed. And of course, they were usually my mistake. But anyway, so thank you for reminding me of that, Mike. Yeah, so I guess it could be a lot worse. Yeah. Okay. Well.
Yeah. Go to Oregano's.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and start the broadcast and say goodbye to everybody who was with us here on the chat today and the live broadcast. And when you listen to the audio version of this, if you do, hopefully it'll sound a lot better.
I doubt it.
No, probably not.
Oh, jeez.
Okay.
I have full confidence.
Yeah, right. Take
Good
care.
night.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.